Hey, Saya.
I'm Carol.
It's Tiffany.
I'm Nicole, and this is what keeps us together.
Basically, the group chat in your head.
Living rent free.
And
One take shouters.
Yes.
I almost ruined it for us.
You did.
I realized.
You held it together. Way to go.
All right, y'all. So today, for this episode, we have two very special guests.
Yeah.
The first is, if you listen to the friendship breakups episode, is my friend Debbie that we have recovered, and
come a long way.
Look at us now.
Look at the growth.
Debbie L. London is a spiritual healer and a self-help author. She has three books that you can purchase on Amazon. She also has a podcast called God in a Gram, so check that out.
Hey.
Debbie, welcome to the show.
Welcome, sis.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
All right. So our second guest is actually here in the room with us. It's the sister I never asked for, but yet still she is here. Minister Teisha Beasley, who has been a lifelong member of Shiloh Baptist Church, where we all met.
In McLean, Virginia.
McLean.
To be clear.
Mm-hmm. All right. Tyson's Corner area. Okay.
Shade, no shade.
Where she has served in many capacities at Shiloh. She has been the trustee, she's the young adult ministry leader, a choir member, and now she is a minister over all youth activities. So she's in Jamaican with like 50 million jobs. Speaking of for real, because I want to plug her business as well. She currently is the owner of Mission Possible Errand Service, which services all of the DMV. So you need anything, and it means anything, literally. She was just cooking with some woman earlier today. So if you guys are in need of some assistance, she is the woman for the job.
Welcome, Teisha.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. So glad to be here. I gotta do jazz hands. I feel like
you can tell she works with kids.
I know. Thank you. So glad to be here. And can I just say quickly that I am so proud of you guys.
Aww.
I mean, I
don't make Nicole cry. Anyone sorry has.
I just love you all so much. I've known most of you all of your lives, and just to see you guys just be bosses, owning businesses and taking care of children and taking care of parents and whatnot, and just being awesome. I love you all so much, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. I wish you could lie and say you loved our podcast.
I do. Every single clip.
Every clip.
I love it in theory.
The idea of it is great.
Okay, so before we jump into the topic, we like to do something fun. Usually we describe our weekend song, but I want to switch it up a little bit since the topic has to do with religion. We all love Jesus. But, we also love a little bit of, razzle dazzle. So we're going to finish the lyrics, and I'm going to switch between gospel and R&B. So how we're going to do this is everyone has to say the next line in the song. So I'll start it. And then, Tiffany, you'll do the next line.
No.
Then Teisha. Then Nicole.
I thought it was. Can you do it as a group? I'm nervous.
Nope, one at a time.
So line for line.
Line for line.
Okay, well, I'm not going first.
You have to. It's
no, you can go the other way.
Fine. Okay. Jesus Christ. So it's going to be Saya,
Debbie.
then Debbie, then Nicole, then Teisha, then you. So I hope you end up in a good part of the song because that might be hard.
Listen, I hope so too, because at least if I kill it, y'all got to
Are we only saying one word?
Line, sis. Line.
Not a whole
the line.
Oh.
So for example, Jesus loves me. And then she'll go, this I know. Then you go, for the Bible.
For the Bible.
Tells me so.
So wherever there's a natural stop. Got it? Okay.
Got it.
So the very first song, I tried to do universal songs I think everybody will know.
Great. So I know none of them. That's great.
Okay.
I feel like we all about to get
So
got.
the first song is His Eyes on the Sparrow.
Okay.
Whitney Houston version. I don't know if that helps.
Not you looking at the lyrics.
I have to do the first line, and I have to make sure you're doing it right. First of all, this is my game. So.
And I don't have to sing it, right?
I mean, you can sing it, you can say it, however. I'm going to sing the first line. Why should I feel
I'm sick.
discouraged?
Sang.
You don't know the next line?
No.
Okay.
And I'm not. Debbie, you got it, because I don't got it. I've heard this song. I don't know this lyric.
Why should I feel discouraged if you couldn't understand?
Can you start with the
Okay.
chorus?
I think it's why should the shadows come?
That's it.
Didn't know it.
No.
Why should my heart be lonely?
You almost messed it up. That was
Almost
right.
did.
And long.
Come on.
For heaven and home.
She felt that
we got
thing.
All right, all right, all right. Here we go.
I
You
don't
got the
know.
easy part. You got the easy part. Don't you got the easy part.
That's not helping me. I don't know.
That's right. When Jesus is my portion. Come on here. All
Portion.
right, we're gonna end it there. All right.
friend.
Hopefully the
You
ratchet.
got ratchet songs?
All right, the next song is
I know
now
the
we're
chorus
going
of that song.
to R
And I know how
and B.
to start.
Hopefully, Saya and Tiffany, this is more your zhuzh.
Can't tell you, I
Yeah.
can't guarantee that neither.
Uh-oh.
Not you being like, okay, this
You
secular.
can
This
say
current
secular
R&B,
music.
It's more your
I
speed.
ain't in
Oh,
it.
but no, I hope it's not current.
Okay, I'm gonna do the chorus of this song since the verses seem to be, kicking y'all in the butt.
So does that mean that
I get so weak in the knees.
I can hardly speak?
I lose all control.
And something takes over me.
It's a days, a phase, or something. I'm so amazed. I don't know.
I'm close. It's in a daze. Your love's so amazing.
Oh,
This is the part where I start making up the words.
That knocks me right off
This is why
my
you-
feet.
this is why you should have went first.
You're right. You're right. I would have known this one.
You don't know it?
Shoot, I don't.
It's not a phase. I want you to stay with me.
Stay with me. See?
By
All
my
right.
side.
Yes!
Come on.
All right. So who wants to go first for this next song?
which one is it?
It's a gospel song.
Okay. I'll go.
Keisha wants to go first.
Nicole's like, challenge accepted.
All right.
Lock and loaded.
All right. So we're gonna go. Then we're gonna go. Teisha, Tiff, Aya, Debbie, Nicole.
Okay.
Okay. I will start at the easy part of this song because whew. This is my story.
Oh, yeah.
This is my song.
Praising my Savior all the day long.
This is my story. This is my song.
Praising my Savior all the day long.
On the
All
beat,
right, come
though.
on, Debbie.
Hold on. Perfect song.
Yes!
Perfect submission, perfect delight.
I am myself.
Nope, that's not what it is. It's
No, that's the wrong
visions of
verse. My bad.
rapture.
Oh, that's
Now, verse
verse
on my
two.
side.
Ain't that
Girl.
verse 2?
It is.
Probably.
All right, we are 0 for 3.
That one was
Let
close.
me also just say, if I
That
needed a
wasn't good.
moment to think, y'all just gonna have to hold on to that beat till I can figure out where I was at.
All right, the next one we're gonna do is Real Love, Mary J. Blige.
Oh, okay.
We are lovers true and through.
We are lovers.
I don't know that part of the song.
Can't.
And though we made it through the storm,
That's it. I really want you to be mine.
realize,
Realize, sure.
Debbie.
I really want to,
To
put,
put you
you on.
Yes.
I've been searching for someone to satisfy my every need.
Be the real love that I need.
Baby, you are my inspiration. Be the real love that I need.
Yeah.
Real love. Hey,
Yes.
All
Going last
right.
finally benefited me.
Okay. I have one more secular song. I'm gonna hope
Someone secular.
we're gonna see how we're gonna do. Okay, I'm gonna have to start from the beginning of this song.
All right.
Okay, who wants to start? Secular. Tevin Campbell, I'll give you that much. Who wants to go first?
I'm good.
You wanna go first?
Outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last night I saw you standing.
I started pretending.
I knew you. You knew me too.
Wait a minute. But just like I was like, don't know.
Oh, that man! I didn't remember it either. But I was like,
just like a Roni. I didn't know this part actually.
A Roni?
Yeah, I looked it up on two different
Roni?
websites to make sure.
a Roni?
Tenderoni.
Oh, like a
Tenderoni.
It's just like
A Roni.
You too shy.
I don't know that part of the song.
But you
The
only
The only one.
Sorry, here we go.
And I dreamed of you ever since. Now I built up my confidence. Next time you come my way, I know just what to say. Can we talk for a minute? All right.
Girl, I want to know your name.
All right, great game, guys.
Tragic.
Yeah, it's really what it was.
Not gonna lie, I thought that was gonna go different.
I honestly
Remember when Saya read the outline and I was like, #nervous.
We played a game similar to this the night before Carol got married. Because
I'm not gonna
remember
lie.
she was getting irritated because we kept singing the songs. You remember this, Debbie?
I don't remember it.
I don't think so.
I do play this game a lot with people because I enjoy these finish the lyric games.
Anyway.
I don't know about me being okay. I don't want to talk
Fun
about
time.
that.
All right.
It might be good that you don't remember.
Okay.
Moving right along.
The Lord.
A large.
All right, so our topic for today is going to be talking about the Jesus identity and whether or not the ways in which you hear individuals discussing God and Jesus and trying to relate him to the current things that we are dealing with in this world, whether or not that has become something that is helpful to bringing in more and lifting up more believers, or if it is becoming harmful. And so this conversation started based upon a couple of videos that were shared with us through Debbie. Does somebody have them ready?
Yeah, this
to
is going
pull up?
back up. The site is. Ooh, me and Debbie talk a lot.
He knows us.
Yeah, he knows us. Thank you.
He knows us.com.
Oh, no, he gets
He
us.
gets us.
Sorry,
He gets us.
Sorry.
Yeah, and there's two. The one that we're going to be talking about first is Jesus suffered anxiety, which we'll play now.
Right in here.
You have to see it.
I do.
Yeah, it is no words.
Jesus suffered anxiety. He gets us. Jesus, he gets us.com.
Oh, okay.
So it's like these different images of like stressful situations and just basically being like, Jesus gets us. He suffered anxiety too. Is video number one. And then, okay, let's talk about that one first because the other one is a little crazy.
Yes. Real wild. Anybody have immediate thoughts?
Well, I was like, Debbie, do you want to go first since you felt so strongly?
Absolutely go first.
All right.
Let's
I can
go.
absolutely go first. And I just want to preface this by saying I love God very mucho and I love Jesus. I do have a very unorthodox way. Can we call it? Maybe. I'm unorthodox in the way that I have my relationship with God and Christ. I was raised Southern Baptist, and that's always been a part of my foundation until about 7 years ago. I started unlearning everything with religion and just doing away with it completely and focusing solely on my relationship with God, because I guess like in difficult times, I just start to feel like, wait, and the way I was taught to go to God, I feel like this is not effective. But when I just rock with him and it's just me and him, I'm getting the answers that I need. But it took so much unlearning and shedding of everything that I was taught, and not just the primary church that I grew up in childhood, but like any church that I visited, the same principles were taught. Like, oh, you got to fear God. And, and if you do this, you're going to hell. And, just a lot of, what is it? Fire and brimstone teaching. And you can't do this, but no explanation why. You can't question God. And just a lot of restrictions, as if God is like sitting on some throne and has a trident. He's ready to strike us down at any moment. And if we fail or do something, we're the problem and something is wrong with us and we're not worthy enough to come to God. And all of that kind of teaching, I had to completely like detox myself from. So I am no longer religious. I don't identify with Christianity. And people are like, but you believe in Jesus. I absolutely do, because there is power in that name. And I know that for myself. Like, truly, I know that for myself. And even when I was going through my unlearning phase years ago, I even questioned, do I even need to believe in you, Jesus? Because everything, it seems to be kind of muddy. Like, and Jesus really came to me and he's like, remember I held you down with X, Y, and Z? That was me. And remember that nothing else will make these entities go away. It's because you called on my name. So what's up? What you need to know? And because of that, that's why my focus is always on relationship more than anything. Because I just feel like we're just not taught to nurture that one-on-one, or we feel like we can't go to God and say, God, I need you. God, I don't even know what I need, but I need you in this moment. And I just need you to come through for me, whatever the case may be. So anyways, I just want to give background on me and how I think, just to preface my thoughts. And also being a spiritual healer as well. I assist people with, number one, healing from generational trauma, especially in our community as Black people. And number two, a part of healing from generational trauma, or a facet that could be a part of it that I've come across with my clients, is also healing from spiritual abuse or religious abuse. And because a lot of people feel like, even though we're moving away from the taboo of therapy being for crazy people, a lot of people still are struggling with unlearning that so that they can get the help that they need, or they were told that they can't do certain things, or they can only do things this way as a form or a means of control, whether that was in their churches or whether that was in their households, and it had a religious tie to it. So I'm way more sensitive, and I can, be accountable in that I'm sensitive to making Jesus clickbait, or luring people in, but not really giving them the tools to be successful as it pertains to their mental health. So anyways, me and Carol's watching one of our
how you feel about
shows.
the video?
Wanted to give the background so people can understand why I feel so strongly about this, because y'all didn't feel the way I felt. So I wanted to give just a little, this is why I'm coming in here with this thought process. But like I was getting into, me and Kira were watching one of our trash shows, and I constantly see this commercial, the commercial that they just played. And every time I would see it, can I curse on here? No, I won't.
You can.
Yeah. Every time I can. Okay. Every time I see it, I'm like, wow, y'all got the Lord fucked up. Like, why are y'all doing that? And the way it says Jesus has, or Jesus suffered anxiety too, the way it was presented, like immediately when I saw it, I'm like, y'all are using Jesus for clickbait, and y'all are not even giving people anything that they need to truly work through whatever their issues are, because there are varying degrees of anxiety. I probably have like a low level of anxiety. I get anxious about stuff. All of us have experienced anxiety, but there are some people who really suffer with anxiety to the point that it is debilitating. Yeah. And I've worked with some people who suffer in that way. So it's just to be like, well, Jesus suffered anxiety, Yeah, don't worry, don't feel bad. And then when they click on that link, which I knew it was going to be trash, it was going to be everything I thought it was. And they read suffering from anxiety. And it's like, Jesus, he was very anxious before he got up on that cross. But, he turned himself in to those guards or whatever, and he did so without complaint. He died anyway, but he had that anxiety, Sorry for you. And it's like, nothing about this was helpful. You got the click that you wanted, but did you pull them in so that they feel inspired to have a relationship with Christ? No, you pretty much just said he had anxiety before he died. First of all, then nobody knows how he was feeling for real. But anyways, you're using him feeling away before he gets on the cross. Okay, but he died. He suffered. And Jesus handled things very differently than we do. Yes, he had a human experience here on earth, but Jesus was also perfect. And me and Carol quickly, touched on the fact that that's also problematic because you want people to be more like Jesus, but at the same time, that's unattainable. Mm-hmm. We are mortal beings. You get what I'm saying? Even though we are spirit beings having a human experience, we are still mortal right now in this realm, this moment, this time. So it's a lot and heavy.
Yeah, when I saw the video and she was like, "Oh, I don't like this video." I watched it. I was like, "Oh, why are you mad, sis?" Like, maybe Jesus did have anxiety. I don't know. Like, but I thought the problem was when we talked about the link after, and I was like, okay, so this is problematic. If you're saying Jesus had anxiety, but you're not backing it up with scripture, you're not backing it up with how you can help. I'm assuming they want you to buy a book or come to their church or something. Yeah. But that's problematic if there's no immediate resource. But at first, my first thought was, like Jesus was human and he has human emotions.
Right.
Right. So the idea of him having anxiety isn't far-fetched to me. Because the first thought I had was when Jesus went to the temple and with Teresa Judice on them folks and started flipping tables. So I was like, he got mad.
Did a carol.
Yes, literally.
Before there was a carol.
Yeah, like he flipping tables. So he was angry in that moment. I think we can successfully deduce that he was not happy.
Right.
So the idea of him having anxiety to me is not far-fetched.
Right.
The problem lies, as you said, is there's no additional resource to now help me with that if I'm feeling anxious and where I can go from there.
Right.
I will say I agree with Debbie too. I understood what they were trying to achieve. But I also do 100% agree with I didn't even click further because I already knew there's nothing there that's leading anybody to Jesus or this personal relationship. And therein lies a problem. I understand the desire to catch people's attention. And I also understand the desire to make Jesus relatable to whatever someone else is dealing with. However, if you're not careful, people will walk away with only the video and nothing else. And what the goal should be is to bring them to a relationship with Christ and better understanding him and what he was dealing with and how he navigated his relationship with God. And none of that is happening in the video. So I do understand where Debbie is coming from. But at first, when I initially watched it, my initial thoughts, and I don't know also, I have to take into consideration the fact of me having been beyond my infancy in my relationship with Christ. If for me watching it from that lens of someone who has built their own relationship, you don't really think about what it's like for somebody who hasn't. So I think that's what Debbie is very much getting at. Like, I'm only looking at it from the lens of, well, I'm over here in my relationship and I get what they're saying, but that's been a 7-8 year journey where I'm at right now. Mm-hmm. There are people who are watching that and have never once considered Jesus, never once considered God. And if you're watching this and all you've heard about God is, come to him and he'll, solve all your problems or whatever the general, knowledge is that you have about Jesus as a whole, that can be very difficult to then try to navigate by yourself, because that's what it sounds like they're doing. They're not really preparing or giving anyone the tools to be able to move forward until they can get and find a minister or a pastor or somebody who can help them walk through what they've just watched.
Yeah. Right. I thought it was interesting because I kind of thought that it was for people that were just starting off their journey. I thought that was the target, but I also thought it was interesting because I'd never seen something that was maybe like relatable to the human experience that Jesus had as an entry point into a relationship with him. Mm-hmm. So that's why initially I was like, I can understand why like I've never seen something like this. I can see how that is appealing and how that would be appealing to people that have not had a relationship with God. And I can understand like why you would take this approach. I do think that it is problematic to not actually feed their immediate need. Yeah. That would that's what makes them click. That's why it resonated with them. And that's why they would want to start that relationship. That's very, very problematic. And it's also kind of surprisingly myopic. Like, it's completely the other end of the spectrum to me. I hate you. In terms of like how you would, it's like so innovative as a way to bring them in. And then it goes back to the same old tropes in terms of how you want to start the relationship. You know what I mean? There is no like, it's not like dual prong. Like you can't be religious and be going to therapy. You know what I mean? Right. Like you can't believe in Jesus and also want to talk to a therapist. You know what I mean? So like it just, it is sad from that regard, I think.
Yeah. The whole "he gets us" is a beautiful statement because he does. But then they just drop the ball on the rest of it. Yeah. You know, it's like, oh, you almost had it. You were 50% there, but then you just dropped the ball on the rest of it. And for them to, you know, label, oh, he had anxiety. He had an anxious moment.
Yeah.
You know, he had an anxious moment. That doesn't necessarily, and we all have anxious moments. It doesn't necessarily mean I have anxiety. I had an anxious moment. Wouldn't we all have an anxious moment? When you know what you face, what you're about to face, of course you're going to have an anxious moment. And but they could have taken that opportunity to break down, oh, well, this is what he did in his anxiety. He prayed. He prayed once and, you know, he still was, you know, feeling a type of way. He prayed again. He prayed a third time. This is what you should do. And like they could have done all of those steps to help enlighten someone on, okay, if you are anxious, this is what you do.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because after me and Debbie had this spirited text exchange, I went to start Googling, like, did Jesus have anxiety? Because I've actually never heard that statement. Like, I've heard he was like upset. I've read those stories, things of that nature. But anxious and anxiety, I've never heard it directly related to him. Although when I am anxious, there are scriptures that deal with worrying and anxiety, but never related to Jesus. So I looked it up, and it's the same story. They're telling him is like when he was just betrayed by Judas after the Lord's Supper, he went to Gethsemane.
Yeah.
And thank you. I had to Google it to make sure. You know, Ralph Lauren.
Wow, a week later. That's how you're gonna come back. Wow, welcome back.
Oh, thanks. 2 weeks actually.
As Harry would say, why are you bringing up all this shit?
Sorry, it was just okay. And he said to he was with Peter, James, and John. He said, "Sit here while I pray." And the scripture is Mark 14:34. He said, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch." And as you said, he went and prayed. So same thing. It's had they even like stayed there, or even like dug into that a little bit further, I think this video would have been way more effective. Because the first thing I thought was like, oh, they're not even going to mention scripture? That's interesting.
Right.
Like, we're not even going to talk about it.
Not even pick up your Bible.
Yeah.
So when I first watched the video, I actually, because we DVR things, I don't watch ads on TV, but I finally saw it on TV in addition to this, and I was like, that's kind of cute for maybe the non-believer.
Right.
I don't think that the audience, and also having a little tiny bit of a marketing background, I don't think that this advertisement is for maybe us. Even if we have a year or two under our belt of being in relationship with God, it's giving very much so infancy, as Saya mentioned. Like, for someone who doesn't have a relationship, who is already struggling, maybe they even call themselves an atheist, to make something that is so perfect, relatable to something, even when it seems very unattainable, outside of it just being clickbait, it pulls you in. Because how many other people, even outside of that link, are now going to bare minimum research? And maybe it fosters, or at least plants a seed for building a relationship of their own. So maybe, no, the ad is not giving what it's supposed to give, and it's not giving the full picture, but it has us talking.
Yeah. Like I said, I researched afterwards. And also, I do want to point out that the show that, one, we all watch the same show. I've never seen this ad, so I find that interesting. But it's not a religious show either, where this ad is being placed. So the show has zero.
So the audience, again,
which I thought was interesting, that where they're placing this ad.
What do you think the demographic of the show is?
It's probably women, mid. I would say maybe it's over 25.
What show is it?
Married at First Sight.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, men watch the show, but I think it's mainly geared towards women.
No, I can see why they chose that show.
Yeah.
Really?
I can definitely see.
You're making a mockery of, I mean, a lot of people perceive Married at First Sight as making a mockery of marriage.
Right. I mean, I love it too.
But wait, but what does that have to do with God?
Well,
They're both
It's
making a
an
mockery of God
institution.
too?
no, marriage is like a big institution of Christianity, and it's an important, the 3 strands.
Yeah.
They're thinking probably that if you're invested in the show, you may not be invested in a relationship with God.
Yeah,
interesting. Then why not like Real Hip Hop of Atlanta?
Right. Because maybe you may not be interested in
but
also
also
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
in the commercial.
I was about to say that.
The commercial is giving
white evangelistic. Yes.
It's not giving.
Yes.
It's not giving Pastor Cal.
With no seasoning
It lacks
involved.
seasoning.
Yes.
It's not even giving Lowry's.
It's mayo based.
You know what?
Aioli.
Even to piggyback off of Teisha and Tiffany and Nicole,
Not me.
I feel like the drop off point, even if it gets people researching, you leave them hanging because like, did you just have anxiety? Nope. And it's like, you know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? Like for us, it's like, oh, he didn't have anxiety, but well, Jesus, help a sister out. We know to do that. For a non-believer, as someone who's never had that God experience, like I'm like, you just wasting my time. They gonna be the one flipping tables. Like, man, I'm over here suffering, and then he didn't even have anxiety, and then you know what I mean? I hate that. That's I think that's what boiled my blood the most. Some like missed opportunity. This is a perfect opportunity. And it was missed. And I feel like also what Teisha was saying, just giving them something, or what Tiffany was saying as well. I mean, that's why I'm piggybacking off of all of y'all. But what if they would have been like, you know what, Jesus sees you suffering from anxiety. He got something for that. And so does therapy. Like what?
Right.
Click the link and we got, therapists for you, and we got some scripture for you. Let's do both. Man, that would have been
that would have been
opportunity.
Especially in the time where a lot of like virtual where virtual therapy is like on an uptick, and there are a lot of ads for that. Like that would be very, very interesting, because I'm sure that there are definitely, I would be one of them that is like very interested in getting therapy and like having a therapist that
believes
that is religious based or Christianity based or whatever have you. I think that would have been really cool. We could be having a completely different conversation if that were the case.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so
you're providing them help, and you're providing them help.
Exactly.
Both sides of it, for sure. So there is one more video. This one's called Jesus Was Born to a Teen Mom. And I'm just gonna play this one.
A girl got pregnant. She was scared. Her parents thought her boyfriend was the father, but the baby wasn't his. He loved her, so he offered to raise the child with her. One evening, her water broke. There wasn't time to get help. He delivered the child and laid him in a manger.
Jesus was born to a teen mom. He gets us. All of us. Jesus, he gets us.com. Sorry.
Okay, not all of us were born to a teen mom.
Exactly. I was like, wow. Mary was on 16 and pregnant. I didn't know.
I mean, she was young, but everybody was young.
Yeah.
Everybody was a teen mom.
But I also looked again after I saw all these videos. I was like, did I miss something in Sunday school? I don't remember saying. But I looked up. Her age is like ambiguous, at least from what I could find. Like I didn't see. Everyone said she was young, but I didn't see anything specifically saying her age. I don't know.
A tale of the time, as Minister Beasley would say, like it was not. You were old if you got married at 16.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's like being married or pregnant at 14 when you get your cycle. For some,
10.
as some, I mean, some people get it much younger, but I don't even want to think about somebody marrying anybody at 10 years old. But 14 and even a stretch, that's not uncommon for that time period.
Yeah.
So
if you didn't live long, you died at what? Well, some of them did.
Was somebody? Were they over 100?
Yeah. Come on,
but we're talking about like in the 1700s when they were like getting married at 14 and dying at 35.
Right. Was it no? Who had the old wife Sarah.
Abraham and Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah.
Isn't she like 90 when she got pregnant?
Yeah.
What, Abraham 150?
Yeah.
He was wrong.
She said 150.
You're right. My bad. I take it back. Okay, you're right.
Them niggas was old.
They were eating raw fruits and vegetables, honey.
Okay.
They were
Right.
True.
Nothing processed over here.
I don't remember what the point where we were going.
Sorry, that was Nicole. Nicole was talking about.
So I'm sorry. I was just saying that not all of us were born to a teen mom. So
well, let's break it down.
Yeah.
So that's
not even the biggest
that
problem.
fact-
it's not.
So
It's not.
Jesus
That's just
born
where
to
I
a
wanna
teen mom
start.
is not problematic, right?
No.
So where's
Well, it's not inaccurate.
It's not inaccurate.
It's not inaccurate, but if that's the point that you're using to relate, that is a missed mark completely.
Mhm.
Okay,
Just from the outset.
Completely, yes. Because one, I mean, at the baseline, not all of us were born to teen moms. And even if you are, there's so many problems with it.
Well, I think that they're trying to relate to people that are pregnant young.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
not that
Which
you
is
being
fine.
born
who
to a
don't know
team.
who their baby daddy is. They're like, and she didn't know who her baby daddy was either.
Yeah, but then immaculate conception enters the chat. Because what are we talking about?
Right, like they missed the whole point of, okay, well, God spoke to her and said, this is what's going to happen,
Right.
right? They missed that whole point.
Yeah,
Like,
'cause
and
well-
also spoke to Joseph saying, Joseph, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is not your baby, but you going to raise a baby.
That part.
Like, God was talking to them.
Her parents thought it was her boyfriend. It wasn't.
And he was her boyfriend.
But meanwhile, God having conversations with all these people.
But also, dang it, I had a point.
Sorry.
It'll come back.
It will.
Speak positivity. It's gonna come back.
Well, I will say this. I also feel like what they were trying to get to is understanding that what they are dealing with, what the youth are dealing with, I should say, right now. Are they dealing with individuals who are utilizing sex at teenage years, right? And so what I will say about this is, while the church normally talks about abstinence, I was impressed that they actually did touch on this and were trying to bring those who normally out of the church would be ostracized, wouldn't be called back in, like being made, like I've heard people talk about like the girls have to come down to the front and they have to apologize to the church for getting pregnant.
Yeah, that was back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. So we've turned a
Did
corner.
the men have to apologize for getting people pregnant?
No, the dudes never
I hate
did.
it here. What am I going to say, Nicole? What am I going to say? Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. I talked about it once an episode
It
minimum.
had happened
It's
to me.
ridiculous.
I'm not apologizing for nothing. I didn't
Apologize for snooping this.
Well, back in the day, you had to apologize and you had to say who the baby daddy was.
Okay, so this is the thing.
And you had to say who the baby daddy was.
Oh, we had to call
If you
him
look
out.
back
Not
at
you
our
outing him in church.
you do, and
It was him.
If you look back at our old church records, it is written in there, and it like our old church minutes. It says, and she was brought forth for being pregnant out of wedlock, and this is who the baby daddy was, and she
I need to start going to
she has
church
been
meetings.
kicked out of the church.
How
It says it in the church
we
meetings.
know.
I have so many questions.
Girl,
First of all, we need to bring out these records.
Girl, you should have run the receipts.
Girl.
That everything falls on the girl.
girl.
I know.
I guess it's also like, oh well, you need to wear stockings. Your skirt needs to be below here
Right.
because you don't want to
tempt the men.
Right.
Call
And
me a
it's like,
temptress.
hey, why don't these niggas have self-control?
Yeah.
It's all about the. Right.
How about that?
We never talk about that though.
Wait,
True.
but can we talk about this?
Yeah, can we go back to the
if
church
you-
minutes?
Yeah, because
How we find them?
if you get outed in front of the church, do you have an opportunity for rebuttal?
Yeah, what if
The
it's
guy's like,
oh.
What if you just love the church?
No, my grandmother told me this story of one particular person that. Okay, so the mom was like, actually, the mom of the baby daddy was like trying to force the girl. You got to tell, who the father is. You got to tell who the father. And she didn't want to do it. And when she finally did, grandma's like, "Oh, if the floor could have opened up and swallowed the woman whole, she would have loved it."
She didn't know it was her son.
She didn't know it was her son.
Oh,
Wow.
So after that point, they stopped doing it.
I
That's terrible.
Man, I need to start going to church meetings again because this is crazy.
bet. Well, okay.
That is so
Oh
absurd.
like I have so many questions.
Me
Like-
too. We
but
can
that was
change
like
the whole
50s,
topic of
60s.
the podcast, honestly. And we can just read church
I
minutes.
have so. Not only just that, if it had been me, we all going down. Because last I checked, we both was thing together. So I'm not gonna stand in front of a whole church and be like, yes, I'm with child. With that nigga's baby. Come on up here so they can see how you look.
But they only put the girl out. They never put the guy out.
Insane.
I'm calling niggas out.
Right. They never put the guy out.
You can get pregnant by yourself.
I would have been like immaculate conception too. So now what?
That's what you tell us now.
You're right.
My name is
change. I mean, this is Jesus' baby. I remember my point from earlier about the video. At first, I was like, oh, this video is kind of cool because it's just telling a story of a girl that gets pregnant young. But then they're like, oh, they laid her in a manger. And I was just like, why can't it just be like a relatable story? And then towards the end, like bring in, like, because it went from like a random girl to it being Mary and Joseph. And the facts aren't lining up until the manger part. So it's just like, why didn't y'all just do like a relatable story?
Right.
And then tie it into Jesus, you know? Because saying Jesus was born to a teen mom isn't completely inaccurate. So you know what I mean? It's like it could that's not a problem. So you could have still made the story relatable without like turning a corner. Because also if you watch the video, this looks fairly modern. So, you know, these people are going to a manger to give birth, you know what I mean? So just, I think that's, again, I think for a lot of these videos, they're like, almost
there. Because even what they said, the narrative up to the point was accurate, but they left out chunks of the story.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, you know, she did get pregnant at a young age, and no, the man that she was supposed to marry was not the baby's father. Yeah, all of that was accurate. Right. But again, like I said before, God talked to them.
Right.
Joseph wasn't in the window like, shoot. Beyonce.
Like, I just wish I wish churches felt comfortable being progressive at this point. Like, I understand, because I'm not a Bible beater by any means, but there is truth in the Bible. There is wisdom in the Bible, right? And I just feel like if we're going to go modern, let's go modern with it. You get what I'm like? You know what? Jesus sees you, teen mom, and he loves you anyway. Jesus is not judging you. Jesus is not judging your baby. You had a teen mom too, you know, but guess what? We got time for that. Let Jesus come and comfort you and help you through your trial. And let's also get you and your baby the support that you need as you're going through all of these changes.
Right.
That's all you got to do.
Exactly.
But instead, let's do some clickbait that's going to lead them to nowhere, y'all. It's a good idea, right?
Lead them to
But
nowhere.
you did not get the soul. You didn't get the soul. You didn't get the believer. You suck.
Why you mad, sis?
Right now.
Well, I mean, also, if you think about it this way, the Bible says that there will also be false prophets and they will lead you to nowhere. And I think that this
Can we
might be tipping the edge.
Because this is no.
That's what you wanted.
Sorry. But that's exactly, that has been my issue a lot with what we would consider to be the, God bless you, evangelist following, I guess is the best way to put it, because I feel like it's Jesus light. It just doesn't give it. When I think about my relationship with Jesus, when I also think about where I have gotten in my relationship, and then I see the glitz and glamour that a lot of the evangelistic churches do to draw people in, but then I don't hear about individuals. I hear about things on large scale, but I don't hear about anything on an individual scale. And that's the thing to me that I've had concerns, and I don't really care for the way in which they handle a lot of the things that they do.
Can you give an example? Like you said, large scale and small.
So I think they do like great outreach. They do big. They'll get these live bands in. They have these concerts. They have great music. They do. They have even like kids camps, and the ideas that they have and what they're desiring to have happen at these events are missing mark, right? Like, so we're talking about Jesus, but you can tell that there's a talk and there's not a relation. if that makes sense, right?
Or talk, no teach.
Talk, no teach. It is, so even with this last video that we're talking about, right? There is the acceptance of this young person having the baby, but then there's a correlation of it with Jesus and Mary and Joseph, who have had a personal relationship with God and hear from him and talk to him. There's the talk about it, but there's never the, how do we build the relationship? What do we do for these things? There's no meat. There's no meat. Right. And I feel like there's a lot of the drinking of the juice and there's no getting to the meat. Mm-hmm. And I, don't get me wrong, the glitz and glamour is cute. And for what it is, the draw that it brings in and the people that it brings in, I think are good. But what you see happening a lot of times with a lot of these situations is that there's something ends up happening, unfortunately, where either a false prophet situation where it's the leadership is never got themselves together, or somebody has infiltrated leadership and something falls out, or the ways they're moving so fast with the bigness that somebody has gotten in and then there's a problem with something else. Like, I'm not saying that the desire is not right. I'm saying that the heart may not align with what should be happening there. And so it can happen in any church, but you have to be careful. If you're not teaching about building that personal relationship that Debbie talked about, if you're not helping people work through that, if you're only talking about Jesus in this very, I don't even know, just pretty glitz and glamour, but don't get into the nitty gritty, because they tried to do that. They really did try to do that, but then there's no connection. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what I'm saying when I'm saying I think it's missing teeth and a lot. And I don't want to say that's every church, but it feels like that because that's what I'm seeing. Not every church as far as every denomination of the church, but when I see the evangelistic churches that are, some of them are mega churches, some of them are really getting large numbers in, it's hard when you do those type of things, especially how do you teach personal relationship when there's no personal relationship within, the groups? You got to have small groups. You got to have somebody teaching, showing, how you build this personal relationship. And those are the things that I think are missing. And I don't know if that's because you're spending so much money on making sure you draw in the crowd that you're not spending enough time, because money doesn't. I
don't know. I think that's what is publicized is this glitz and glam, but these churches can't survive without these small groups. So I think small groups definitely happen and teaching definitely goes on, but we're trying to draw the masses in. It's just like on a Sunday morning. Yeah, I may preach from a scripture, but I don't have time to necessarily break down, okay, well, he was from this city and this is what this city means and this is what this Greek word means. And this, I don't have time to do that. But a lot of times it's just, okay, listen to the message of Jesus. But if you want some more, if you want some, some potatoes, then you got to come in and you got to do your own work as far as Bible study and other, things that are offered. Sometimes a lot of onus is on person. Well, it should be. And a lot of people are like, well, I went to church and I wasn't fed. Well, daggone, did you bring a plate? Were you receptive? Were you hungry?
Right.
Mm-hmm. You talking about you didn't get fed. Were you hungry?
Were you looking for him to just hoop and holler? And that's it?
And that was it. Did you just want the surface? Did you want to taste, but you really don't want, to fully digest and ingest all of who God is. So we got to have that own personal oneness. So if you see the glitz and the glam, okay, you got to go beyond that yourself. It's personal.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if that's fair though for someone who doesn't know, because all of us, we have a personal relationship, and for people who don't even know where to begin, I don't know if it's fair to say, well, are you hungry? Did you bring a plate? Because even some of my old clients, they were like, I don't even know how to talk to God. Mm-hmm. Like literally would be like, I don't even know how to have a conversation with him at this point, because they felt so unworthy. They felt like I've messed up so much. There's no way God is going to even, welcome me back in the fold. There's no way. Or, I'm questioning how our relationship or the foundation of our relationship, there's no way he's going to allow me back in because I was told I can't question him about anything. And I feel like some people are hungry. They're just lost. They're like, okay, I hear the scripture, I hear the sermon, you know what I mean? Like, I want it, but I have no idea where to begin, because some people are that overwhelmed. And maybe it's like I would give my clients like practical things to do. I'm like, look, we can start out in a journal if you can't sort out your thoughts, or you can take I will always say 5 minutes. I'm like, just carve out 5 minutes in the morning to say any and everything that you want to say to God. Or you could be in the shower, like just really giving them some practical, easy, like no fluff. We don't have to do a whole bunch of eloquent, grandiose things.
Right.
Just 5 minutes of your time. Be like, God, look, I'm standing before you. I know we haven't talked in a while, but God, I do want a relationship with you. God, can you? I will always say, I love a show me prayer. I don't know what it is about telling God, can you show me this? Or can you show me that? God be like, bet. I don't know what it is. If you say, God, can you show me what it looks like to have a relationship with you? God, can you show me what it looks like for me to overcome my fear of having a conversation with you? For whatever reason, God will then align certain signs and synchronicities or situations for you to be in. Be like, look, right here is how we can do it. Look, right here is how we can do it. People just don't have the foundation.
I think I was saying the same thing.
Time and time again.
I think you always say the same thing. Because what needs to happen is it's a two-way street. You can't just go to church and be like, with no intention on doing the work. And so it's I think where it's problematic is where even if you don't know, you went to church, right? So that's the first step. Or you reached out to someone like you, Debbie, or another minister or someone in that realm where you're asking for help. That's the first step. So there has to be a desire. Yeah, a desire. And then you knowing, I mean, because I do think even in your infancy of either relationship or religion or wherever you fall in that spectrum, I would assume that you know that it's not by osmosis or it's not just going to come, that there has to be some work. Like I'm trying to think of in all of my years of going to church, I've never been told this is where it stops. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like
people believe it. I hear what you're saying, but there are people who, I agree everything you want to say, but I want to take a step back real quick and just say that there are individuals who are going to church, as Teisha said, just to hear the word and be entertained, and that's it. They are not considering the fact of wanting a personal relationship. Sometimes God puts us in a situation where we learn, I'm going to have to figure out a personal relationship because I thought I could phone it in and just show up, and that's not the case.
No, I feel you. I guess what I'm saying is then you can't blame the church that you're not, that your relationship hasn't progressed or what have you. If you're just walking in and there's no desire to figure out on your own what's next, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, the tools are out there. I mean, you can Google and figure out everything at this point. You can Google that. You can figure it out. We can find people like Debbie. You know, it's available to us. So if you don't seek that out, then do you really have a desire for a relationship?
Or do you want to complain?
Yeah, you want to complain.
Add one little thing. It's like, I don't know, kind of like what Saya was saying. I've seen where churches, or I've even gone to churches where we're focused on bringing people in, right? We're focused on, that invitation to discipleship and making sure that you give your life to Christ and that you get baptized. And maybe, I don't know if it's a Southern Baptist thing. I don't know, but the Bible Belt is a weird place, but neither here nor there. It's like they almost teach, like, once you get baptized, you're good, that sort of thing. And people are really kind of left, okay, what's next? Like, oh, well, I got baptized, so I should be good. And as soon as they backslide or fall back into the same space they were, they're riddled with guilt. But then when they do go for that help, it's like, well, you shouldn't be doing that. Well, you shouldn't be, whatever. And there's no tools on how to navigate being human. I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's like the desire is there, but the teaching, kind of like what Sai was saying, like it's all glitz and glamour. Like all you got to do is come to God, come to church every Sunday, tithe, go to Bible study, and you're good to go. But then when that real shit start happening, it's like you're on your own. I don't know what to tell you. You're supposed to, figure it out. You're supposed to know and it's like, they're like, I'm struggling. And then that's when people just, retreat and like, never mind, this isn't for me. I'm not perfect enough.
Yeah, I would say that I had an experience like that. Actually, when we went to the DR and we were evangelizing, and it was like with, I don't know, it was weird. We were evangelizing. We were going from like people's houses, and I don't know what the Bible sense of this is. All I know is like what feels right and true to me in my relationship. And I was talking with a woman, and she was talking about how she can't go to church because she's like living in sin and she doesn't feel worthy. And, God doesn't want to hear from her. And I was like, well, do you pray? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, well, then you already have a relationship with God. And so this is being translated to Spanish, right? And he looked at me and he said, no. And refused to translate that because he's like, if she's not baptized, she doesn't have a relationship with God. And I was like, we are living in very different realities. And I suddenly feel like I shouldn't be here. Who are you? Like, you know what I mean? I feel like
you're not a gatekeeper.
Right, exactly. And I feel like that is sometimes what the issue is, right? So that religion sometimes gets in the way of the relationship because it is so taught that there is a right way, there is one way, there is the way to do things, when that is not the human experience, and that's not realistic from person to person. That's not realistic for any relationship you have, really. You know what I mean? You're one person, but you can have varying relationships with a whole array of people. So it just, I feel like it's things like that really create that rub where it's like opportunities can really be missed. And it's not just not having the desire, but also like if you had the desire once and how someone spoke to you, and now that's what's in your mind of like, fair. Oh, because this, I haven't done this, or this hasn't happened, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. So it kind of creates this cyclical, really like toxic cycle.
Talk about I lost it a little bit. Also talk about the fact that there's I'm trying to pull this back. Sorry. Individuals are looking for, that was it. Sorry. I'm trying to get my thoughts together. The video, back to the video. The video, when I initially said it was nice to be able to see them talking about something that has been very taboo in the church. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And so from that respect, two things. And so from that respect, I'm so glad about it. But there was it was kind of like they had that over here, and then what Mary and Jesus and Joseph were doing over here, and no correlation of like, they said that Jesus loves you, but we're not talking about like, even though he loves you, this does not mean that life is going to get any easier. Like, this doesn't mean that other people aren't going to feel some type of way about you. That doesn't mean that once you become a Christian or baptized, I think another thing too, this man is saying, oh, you can't have a relationship without being baptized. Well, the baptizing doesn't mean that all of a sudden I'm going to get up and I'm going to be good. Like, people have to understand. And I think that that's the thing, that like knowing Jesus doesn't alleviate anything. If anything, knowing Jesus, you get more tests. If anything, that ought to be what is being said. And I think that that's part of the reason why I'm like, it feels like Jesus light, because you're like, oh, just come to Jesus and everything's going to be great. Now I've heard a lot of people come, get baptized, and then leave, and the world feels like it's caving in on them, and they feel like they didn't get enough support from the church, and they're not sure how to go in the Bible their own self, and they're not sure where to turn. And I'm not saying that it isn't on the individual as well, but we need to remind them that when you get baptized, when you start to learn about Jesus, you will be tested.
Well, I don't really know that you can utilize that as an entry point to people that are looking for a safe space. I don't really want to hear that, like, you think it's hard right now? When you get to go God, then wait. You know what I mean? That's not really what I'm looking for. But I think that, like, harping on, like, the idea that you will have, like, a support system. A support system, and someone that always hears you, understands you, and forgives you.
Also, we have to remember, I don't know about other churches, but we were probably, like, strongly encouraged to get baptized in like elementary school, I would say. Mm-hmm. If you got to like middle or high school and you weren't baptized yet, like everybody's looking at you crazy.
But as a member.
Yeah. So I feel getting baptized at that age, like, you don't know what you're signing up for. Like, I mean, I understood kind of. Like, I remember like, do you believe Jesus, Lord, is your Savior, Jesus Christ? Like, do you believe Yes, I believe all those things, but I don't know what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, I'm 9. So baptism doesn't feel as This is getting offensive. It feels less of like a necessity or like a change or like a turning point to me, at least when everyone's telling you to do it when you're 10. Like it doesn't
check mark.
Yeah, like it's just a check mark. Like it never felt to me like a real like turning point in my relationship with God.
Although I think now we do it differently.
Yeah.
There's like you're instructed before you're baptized.
Yeah.
So I think, then it was like, oh gosh, all my cousins are going up. I better go up too.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And it took years before I really had a personal relationship with him. But then definitely was like, oh, I don't want to be left behind. I don't want to be the only one who's not baptized. Whereas now we definitely know that that's not the right way. And the kids are instructed before, after, during all of that, so that there's a complete understanding of what you're doing, what's going to happen, what will happen after this, what are the steps you need to do beyond this. So I think we do a better job of that, of informing them now.
Yeah, and this is no shade, but and this may just be because like pre-Cheeks era of church, like
that's our pastor for our church. Like
it's like a little fuzzy to me.
Yes. Yes. Sometimes I was like, let me just say that's the pastor.
Okay, sorry.
Pastor
Cheeks is Dr. Pastor Cheeks.
Wow, I didn't even catch that at first.
Terrifying. Anyways, before they came to our church, like I don't even remember relationship really being harped on in our church.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was going to say, with your experience in the DR, we still live in a world where people are very religious and don't talk about relationship.
Right.
And progressive. I want to also tie into what Debbie said about people being okay with being progressive. I would like to think that our pastor allows us that space.
Yeah.
Where being progressive is okay. Because in my mind, when I look at progression, I think at adapting to the future while respecting tradition.
Yes. Agreed.
Not necessarily implementing tradition all the time. Because what we've learned over the years is that sometimes tradition, like calling you out in front of the church when you're a teen
we can bring
mom,
that back then.
or
I used the tea. Keep it hot.
Just kidding.
Or getting baptized without not knowing truly what you're doing may not necessarily be the best thing for people. Right. So now that we know better, we do better.
Yeah.
And in doing better, we're building a relationship just as you would if you were swiping on Tinder. Is that what people still do? I don't know. But
Debbie, just
getting not on Tinder at this moment.
That's right. Tell them about it.
But like, even if you were building a relationship with anybody, just like when we build a relationship, you have conversation, you communicate,
you ask questions,
spend time. There's some commonality.
Not Jesus being on Tinder.
Swipe left.
What's in his bio?
I've come to save you. And to
wait. That might be my question at the end.
Wine for you.
I turn water into wine, girl.
How you trick? What were you? It was something that you were saying, Nicole, and I was like, I know what I want to say. I want to say for y'all are very fortunate to be at a church and under leadership where there is growth and where it is encouraged, from what I've seen about Shiloh. And I think, everybody just doesn't have that beautiful experience that y'all have had. You know what I mean?
Bless.
And so thank God for Pastor Cheeks. And if there were more like him at other churches, but there just typically is not. A lot of people are doing the prosperity preaching, which, oh my God, that's so harmful. Because it's like, oh yeah, if you do this, then God is going to give you everything you want. Man, please. When I be making some serious petitions and declarations, God be whipping my ass. And I'm like, why I gotta go through all this? But then it's like, to prepare you. I don't want you prepared. I just want you to give me what I asked for. You know what I mean? But I'm at the point now because me and God have fought a lot, especially in these past handful of years. We fought so much about, God, I feel like you be doing me dirty. I feel like, the moment I ask you for something, Here you come with all this growth. Here you come with all this healing. Here you come with all this shedding and pruning and everything else. And I just feel like I should not have to go through all this, but now I understand. And a lot of people, well, I feel like if we just kept it real in church, like, look, I just want to let you know, though, when you start asking God to do big, because I hear a lot, and maybe this goes back to a little bit of prosperity preaching. People are like, oh, you serve a big God, so you need to have them big dreams, and you need to do these big things. And people like, bet, God, I really want to, have this, I don't know, nonprofit, that is global and da-da-da-da, and I really want you to make this come to life for me, God. And he's like, I love that you asked me that. Because what I'm about to drag you through to make sure the foundation is right on that thing. Right. And I feel like there was some honesty as you go through the process. Because I agree with Tiffany too. Like, if I didn't know God and y'all like, okay, as soon as you do know him, you about to get dragged for filth. I thought, oh, well, I'm good on him then. Like, I've been good on him. You know what I mean? But I feel like there was a beautiful balance yes, we can find out the information on our own, but Google can be overwhelming.
But some of these same folks will know the street of the baby daddy or whoever they're trying to find. So no, that's a cop out.
Where did we just go to?
No, I'm just saying some of these same folks like I can't find. No, you find everything that you want to.
Trifling people.
I'm just saying. Trifling, non-trifling, it's there.
We're not talking about them hoes. We talking about people. You know what I mean? Because the trifling people, it's like, you don't want no motherfucking help. Get out my face. You know what I mean? Like, right. you don't want it. So bye.
Trifling people need Jesus
people
too.
Who are truly like sincere. I'm talking about the real sincere people who are genuinely, truly struggling. Yeah. We're not giving credit to people who acting like they can't figure out stuff or they can't do things or that want to be enabled. No, they are out of the equation because if you know better, you will do better. And that is just the God honest truth. We're talking about the people who are with a sincere struggle.
I will say,
or I am.
As we were having this conversation, the one thing that stuck out to me the most out of this is that a lot of times we will negate the struggle. Because as I was thinking about this, this is not my home church. However, I landed at this church. And before I landed at this church, there was the struggle of being at a church that was not pouring into me the way in which I needed. Don't get me wrong. It got some people through, but it wasn't giving me what I needed. And during that time, I very much was spending a lot of time like, God, where are you at? I need X, Y, and Z. I'm struggling through a lot of things right now. Couldn't understand. So we hear a lot of people in their struggle, and I'm assuming Debbie is even dealing with a lot of those people on a day-to-day basis. And it's not to say, let's not negate the fact that he does not hear us. He does hear us. He does know that what we need is right around the corner, but we just can't see it, right? Mm-hmm. And so it may be that you got to struggle at this church you're at right now till you find the right church for you. It may be that you need to struggle where you're at right now until he brings the right leadership into your church. It may be that you need to deal with whatever you're dealing with until you are partnered with the right therapist or whatever the case may be. I don't want to take away from the struggle because the struggle does change us mainly. Only it didn't change anybody else. I don't know why I said that. It changes us and puts us in the right position to be able to be. And so I hear a lot of people. I'm thinking back about where I was at, and I did a lot of complaining too during that time about like I had gone to other churches in my area, and I was like, no, that ain't it. That ain't, wasn't feeling like I was getting anything that I needed. And I don't know if I would have been as receptive to Pastor Cheeks when I got here had I not gone through all of what I went through, because I was going through a lot of life changes, decisions, moving, not knowing anybody, like all of those things happened. And as we were having this conversation, like there may be somebody that these videos are hitting at the right time that the church, that little website thing may not do it, but I don't know, if there's 10% of the population that's watched it, that saw it and got something out of it in that moment, even if they're struggling with that at that moment, and if it brings, who knows, if it brings them to it, fine, but it feels like it's not going to hit the mark the way it should be. So I don't want us to negate the fact that like there's somebody struggling that's seeing it, and they may be right. They may be completely ready for whatever, and they may do the Googles, and they may get to wherever they need to get to. But for the people who are not ready and who haven't, like they're struggling at the beginning of their struggle, and we don't know where their journey is going to get them to. They may see this video and it may do nothing, or it may have the opposite effect. Because I'm sure there's a percentage of people who have seen this video and it did the exact opposite of what they planned it to do. But how do you control any of that? Can they do better? Yes, 1,000% they could do better, but it may hit somebody. And that when we were talking, it just made me think about the fact of nobody's journey looks the same. So, and I know mine for sure did not. And I know a lot of people being in the gay community, a lot of people look at me and are like, how are you even here? But they have not done the struggle the same way that I have. Have you? If your struggle is going to be the same, is similar to mine, sure, maybe that walk is going to look the same. But a lot of people don't have the same struggle. And so a video that would do nothing for me may do something for you. And it just depends on where you are on your journey, where you are with your struggle. But I will say, if you're struggling right now, just know that there is something on the other side of the struggle, regardless of whether or not it looks like it, or fits the thing that you need. And if you don't have a Pastor Cheeks at your church, don't stop looking. Don't stop trying to find.
First of all, if you don't have a Pastor Cheeks at your church, Pastor Cheeks can be your pastor because we're virtual now. So regardless of where you are, Pastor Cheeks can be your pastor.
We have 3 locations in McLean, on YouTube and Facebook.
Hey, location.
I'm sorry, campuses.
Yes. I think this is a good time to transition.
Okay.
Saya, do you want to talk about your...
Oh, yeah. So I kind of hit on it, I guess, a little bit earlier. So I'm not sure if individuals are aware or have ever heard of a church called Hillsong. However, if you're a Justin Bieber fan, you probably have, because there was a large following of individuals who liked Justin. Kind of when he gave his life back to the Lord, he joined a mega church that has locations all over the world called Hillsong. And okay. Sorry. So I don't know if anybody's heard, but as of late, there's been a little controversy at Hillsong. And I will say also it is a evangelist church. So they are a mega church with locations. They started off in Australia. They're in the United States, but as of recently, they've had a little controversy.
Something slight.
No, it's just a little something slight. There's like a whole 3 or 4 docuseries on Discovery Plus. I didn't watch it. I'm just saying if you have it, you can watch it.
I can get a little blurb.
Oh, you want to give the blurb? Go ahead, give the blurb on the documentary.
Yeah. So basically, this is according to the New York Post. The 3-part docuseries dives into the jaw-dropping history of the religious institution and its founder, Brian Houston, who has been accused of everything from embezzling church funds to covering up child sex abuse.
Yeah.
Is that only Hillsong?
Well, this particular docuseries.
And you should fire the shots.
Yes.
When we talk about the Catholic Church.
Did they make that song? I mean, this is irrelevant.
No, they do.
Did they make the Spirit lead me?
Yes. Oceans.
Okay.
Let me just. So the reason that I know about Hillsong is not because of Justin Bieber, but because a lot of their music has been throughout a lot of churches. So when I was church surfing, I was like, I don't know why this is a popular song because I keep hearing it. I don't hear it on the radio, but I for sure was hearing it on a lot of Black churches were playing a lot of their music.
I just think it's on shit by them, and I'm ashamed.
We zhuzhed it up a little bit, but yeah. So I kept hearing about this church over and over again, and they were blowing up. They were just literally blowing up, and they are on their social media game on point. Let me just tell you, the marketing on point. They had figured out a system and a way to be able to draw in masses, right? So they have a huge following. Justin Bieber. There was a pastor on there that had a 6-pack.
Carl, I think.
Yeah, Carl Lentz had a 6-pack, and all the girls were crazy about this one pastor. Well, and I think that that's actually the guy that that's the guy that.
Hand me the piece of paper, please.
Oh, there's no.
They don't work.
Yes.
I'm not doing this.
But nonetheless, said all to say that they grew up and blew up fast, and a lot of people watched their rise, and a lot of people were influenced by their rise, right? So to be where they're at now with a lot of controversy, I mentioned earlier when I was talking about my concern with it being Jesus light sometimes. This was one of the churches I was talking about. And I'm not saying that they have millions of people that have been baptized, millions of people who have joined. I've also, though, watched as tons of people before the controversy have left, tons of people who, have had issues. And again, as I was saying before we transitioned to this, you got to find what's right for you. But when I'm a fan of small churches personally. I'm just going to say that. I know everyone's not. There are a lot of people who like large churches. Large churches get a lot of things done. Let's just start there. Their money goes a little bit further. So I do understand the appeal. However, I think a lot of the appeal came from the glitz and glamour, and I don't remember not a word coming out of there. And I'm not saying that there isn't the word. I know that they were preaching and they had great preachers that come out of there. Yeah. I know that. I'm not saying that there isn't, but the draw was more so the marketing. The draw was more so the music.
I would say the recent draw, because they've been around for years. I've watched them for years.
Oh, well, yeah, I did mean that in the expanse, right?
Yeah, because so the recent draw.
Yes, yeah, no, I would agree, because he took over for his father. His father had grew that church up too, so they're not new to this. They're true to this, but they with any expansion, when you're moving that fast, when you're doing those type of things, that's my concern when I say Jesus light. Yeah. Not so much like that they don't have the foundation, that the foundation starts to get watered down as they grew really fast. And so I don't know if that's part of the reason why there's the controversy that there is. But I know that the 6-pack pastor, he's no longer there. Carl.
Well, he had a controversy with sleeping with another woman.
Yeah. Yes.
That wasn't his wife, to be clear.
Let me be clear. This is not the first church to have some level of controversy like this. Won't be the last.
No. Mm-hmm.
As long as tides are flowing in, there will be embezzlement somewhere.
Right.
As long as
if there are not checks and balances, there's not checks and balances where there's an issue here.
Well, okay, fair. Not everywhere. But
let's just not make a blanket statement.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, my apologies.
Oh yeah, my statement was not a blanket for all evangelistic churches either. I hope that's clear.
It's definitely not blanketed, but
we still trying not to get canceled last minute. Last minute. Go ahead. Say it with your chest. Go ahead.
Whole chest.
I don't have no gun class today.
Some of the older people would say was where there's a will, there's a way. And you can look at that from a positive, but some people who operate in a pessimist could easily say that some churches don't have the right intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And in not having the right intentions, or even sometimes, like you said, if something in the midst gets skewed, even with someone who does have the right intentions, it could easily drift to a place where it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I first saw this, I didn't know Hillsong was a church. I thought Hillsong was a music group. Right. And so and I will say that until last week. When Saya brought it up,
I would have said it until yesterday when I read the
I was like,
article.
Hillsong is a church? I had no idea. I didn't know Justin Bieber went there. I was I did watch the first part of the docuseries because that's the only episode that was free. And they were going through a lot of things I didn't know. Like I read a bunch of articles. I didn't know that they're basically like a franchise where you can like put your church underneath their overarching brand. So like some churches, like this black guy, I can't remember his name right now, but he has a church under Hillsong and they moved it from underneath them. So it's like, for lack of better words, like a McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like where you own.
So it's McDowell's now?
Yes, essentially, yes. He had a Hillsong church.
So it's Hillsong, not Hillsong.
Yes, they're no longer singing with him. But I also was a huge fan of the group. Well, their choir or whatever. Because they have really great music. And I saw one of the articles I read. She said the music is really a really huge department because it's so critical to the church's power of hypnosis. The music is completely weaponized for whatever the church's needs are, as well as financial, which is the aim of the game, is to get the money out of the people. And so they were saying they like chord. I think we talked, even Kanye has said it recently about like chord progressions and how music can like trigger different emotions and feelings. And they basically like test their music on their church to then figure out, I guess kind of like they test it in church first and then they put it out on CDs and masses and things of that nature to see what's going to work the best.
Sense.
Which it does make sense. Like if I'm going to put a CD out, I'm going to test it in a service.
Okay. Sorry. I agree that makes sense. Like, let's make sure people like the music in the context of
this certain quote.
Yeah. Certain music creates different reactions
responses.
And that's how they test their church from that aspect. That's what's terrifying.
Oh yeah. It is definitely terrifying. Even the music again. I was like, dang, this is a little scary. That
not hypnosis.
That was her particular word, but it's not, to me, it's not far-fetched. Knowing what we know about like sounds and what they do to our brains and things of that nature, that you're choosing different chords and singing certain things to evoke an emotion. I don't know if you guys did Young Life. It was a really big
I heard of it,
group in Northern Virginia where they basically it was a church group aimed towards teenagers. So it was like you would go, sometimes their church services weren't at a church. It would be like at a restaurant or somewhere like not on church grounds. Kind of like bring your guard down so you don't feel like you're going into a church service, which can be overwhelming or intimidating to someone that doesn't have a relationship with God, didn't grow up that way. And they like their church services would be with a rock band or an acoustic band. Like it was just very like, kind of like this. I think it's kind of like a Hillsong type of format, I guess you would say, where it's not a typical Baptist church service. Yeah. It was very low key, very low pressure, probably Jesus light to your point, where they kind of made Jesus more palatable. But when you're 15 going to that, it feels like cool to go to a church service than going somewhere else. So I think there's a fine line with a lot of this stuff where making God and religion and Jesus relatable is good to bring people in, right? It's the problem is when there's nothing to keep or sustain. Yeah, I think is where we're at.
And that's what I mean by saying Jesus light. Like,
I mean,
it's like
okay, that's what you mean. Okay,
yes, sorry.
Because I feel like from watching them over the years that the word of God goes forth. Now, where the problem lies is that folks in leadership lack the moral integrity to really maintain.
Right, because you're saying it, but you're not following anything that you're saying. You're doing the exact opposite. You're having an extramarital.
Yeah.
Although, as a church, once that person goes through that, how we react to him and how or her also says a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because of the way we are slowly getting out of this thing. There's still a lot of people who do, but I think we even talked about this earlier, where I think religion versus relationship comes when you're not looking at your pastor as the only way to be able to have a relationship. We are slowly getting away from that now, where our church is not in my respect. I don't think it's like that at all. Pastor's always like, no, go to God. Like I cannot get any more prayers up than you can. You need to go yourself. But there was a time when a lot of churches were built on, and I know people who still have this philosophy. They feel like the pastor needs to be there every Sunday because I need to hear his word. He's the only one that can get me, get a word to God. He's the only one who can give me the word. There's no, there has, and our history has been that, and honestly, I was looking this up. It used to be that pastors and preachers spent time getting educated, seeking that education, and then trying to bestow that onto their people so that they could learn themselves. And they were saying during the what's the time period where they were doing the tent services and they were bringing snakes out and all those type of things. There was that during that time it became
revivals.
What's that?
The revivals.
Yeah, revival.
Some
of them, yes, but there's a term too where they and I just don't have the article in front of me, but they were talking about
exactly what term. I can't think of the term.
Yeah, where they literally went from it being having even the pastors having that personal relationship to it being about the hooping, the hollering, the falling out, the laying of hands. And so then, of course, if you transition it from spending time in the Bible, spending time with yourself and educating other people to it being a show.
Yeah, that's not fun.
You think the show is the person giving the show is the only one who can get the prayer through, or the only one who can provide the miracle, or the only one who knows Jesus the best. And we're slowly, because I think we can all say that I know even from my parents, they were saying like they had to unlearn that the pastor was the only one. And they build their own relationship. So I'm taking a few generations back where people, the pastor was literally a king to God. And we are slowly getting away from that. But I think that what Hillsong and a lot of these other mega churches in that way make me nervous sometimes, because they're telling you need to go to Bible study, to your point. While you might like his preaching, you still need to come in. You need to go to these small groups. You need to do these things. And those things sometimes make me a little nervous, because I love me some TD Jakes, but I'm still going to spend some time on my own reading the Bible. And I don't think a lot of people are doing it.
Sorry.
It's okay.
No, I just wanted to go back to Teisha really quickly. When you said how people react to those fallen, it says a lot about the church. I just wanted you to expound upon that a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Well, if we're the main ones, as soon as someone has messed up, if we're the main ones on social media or wherever, just shunning and, you such a sinner, we can no longer associate or, fool with you in any way. It just goes against the teachings of Jesus, who is a forgiving God. So for us to react that way, even when regular folks mess up, sometimes you read a church person's, tweet or post, and you're like, good Lord Jesus.
Look,
so
I know a few.
Right. You're like,
so what do you,
let's unpack that.
I was going to say, so in terms of like this particular case, while I don't think that they should be stoned, what is the, what is happening?
You are being put in time out. Stop hitting the table and stop hitting yourself onto the microphone.
Okay. They say we're Christians.
See, exactly like I said.
We're also sisters.
Be the main ones.
No, we're also sisters.
The main ones.
How do you think? What would be the appropriate response to Carl or a pastor that has
a lot of child abuse? Or
let's not say child abuse. Let's bring it back to like adultery and infidelity and embezzlement. Like, I don't want to bring children involved.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just listening to things that
let's leave the babies out of it.
Yeah, because I mean, you should die. Sorry. What is
Christian?
Sorry, don't touch my child. Already. What is the appropriate response to you?
A lot of it is your voice is not needed in the conversation at all. So, I mean, did God tell you to say anything? Did you pray and say, Lord, is there something that I need to say about this situation or do besides praying this brother through it or praying this sister through it? A lot of times our voice is not needed as far as, a negative comment or whatever.
Are you talking about like in general, like when it happens at Hillsong, or like when it happens in the congregation you belong to?
All across the board.
Is that a level of Christianity I aspire to?
I like to tell it like it is.
But do you feel like he should have kept his job?
I feel like if he truly repented, maybe he's not the every Sunday preacher, but I think eventually he could get back to the preaching, because I mean, we're expecting perfection in the pulpit, and that's not going to happen.
Right. Perfection.
Well, how is there accountability?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
How would you suggest they be held accountable? If,
well, like I said, he shouldn't maybe be the every
it.
Sunday preacher, but he definitely needs to go through counseling. He needs to apologize to not only to his wife, but to the church. And he just needs to show that he no longer is.
So is he still head pastor at Hillsong at this location?
I don't think No,
I mean in your and how you feel like this should be appropriately handled. Would you say that he should still be the lead pastor, or he should step down?
He should step down. Okay. Yeah, he should definitely
if he doesn't step down.
Well, then he should be voted out.
Leave is what she's saying.
I'm not saying
leave the church, right?
I'm not saying leave the church. Right. I'm not even saying leaving that particular campus. I'm just saying you don't need to be the leader right now. You need to focus on
what you got going on.
Yes. And counseling and all of that.
I just want to point out one more thing about this particular situation. I don't know if this changes anything for you. He was very hell bent on telling women don't have sex before marriage. Even one person came in and said that
I read that. Yeah.
Her and her boyfriend had sex, and they went to him, I guess, for counseling. He told them to break up because they had fornicated, or I don't know, all this other kind of stuff. So I think what also made it very look really terrible is that you're telling people to break up and not being in relationships because they made a mistake, and here you are, bumping coochies with someone that's not your wife for years.
I don't think that's how that works. Well-known pastor.
Yeah, I know you're going to talk about
Atlanta who can rest in hell.
By way of Baltimore.
Oh, wait. There's a couple then. Well, we're thinking about two different pastors, I think.
Not him, but same church. So
Jesus.
It drives me crazy when any pastor that is homophobic, I'm like, he's DL. I don't care, because with this situation in Atlanta, he was constantly berating people in his congregation about how homosexuality is a sin. Whole time you grabbing up the teenage boys, then denied it, and everything else. And the church was trying to rally around him, but the proof was in the pudding. These young men had no reason to lie, clearly, but he was always preaching the message against homosexuality, but was doing the very thing he was condemning. He was fighting himself. For. Exactly. And the same thing, with what Carol was just saying about this pastor, telling these couples to break up and everything. Hold on, let's talk about sex real quick. Just 2 seconds. I hate how we are such a sex negative society and it's tied to religion. Because when you get to the point where you are having sex, or you're just trying to be in tune with your own body or understand yourself sexually, now you just think sex is dirty when it's a natural thing that God created. Yeah. You know what I mean? I just think the overarching thing is, hey, let's keep it real. We can love Jesus, we can love God, and we can be authentic in our human experience at the same time, because we're gonna have sex. Things are gonna happen, but how do we navigate that in such a way where we are still aligned, or making sure our relationship is what it needs to be, or, making the certain corrections that we need to make, whatever that looks like. I just wish we would stop acting like stuff don't happen, or things don't happen. Yeah. And God is the source, or God, Jesus, they're the source and the solution for navigating these things. They are a tool in your toolbox, so to speak, or your team, your spiritual team that's here to help assist you with that navigation. And like Teisha was saying, okay, you got to do some stuff on your own. You do. Absolutely. It's but you got your team here to support you and to help navigate you, through whatever your GPS, so to speak, your God system. Anyways, but I got off on a tangent. But my point is,
that's one thing we gonna do.
Right.
Pastors do be hypocritical. Not all of them, not making a blanket statement, but they will. The ones who be condemning stuff very, very hard, especially things that are natural and just normal stuff that people deal with on the day to day. I hate when they're struggling with it, but you're constantly preaching something totally different. Like, sit your ass down somewhere. This is not helpful. You are harming the people. And also just, anyways.
So I have a question for everyone in the group. So
can I make a point first?
Yeah,
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that on what Teisha was saying, that I struggle with this concept a lot. And I think that we've had this conversation around Kanye's like Sunday service a lot too, is like there is a concept of like what is right for you, like where you're getting your message, and like and keeping those things separate sometimes I feel like is hard. I feel like we as a society have a hard time with that, not just in church, not just in like our church leadership, not just when it comes to preaching, but like, you know, you think of like Cosby and how devastating that was because we didn't separate the man from the art. You know what I mean? Definitely. And so I feel like there is a level of responsibility that comes with preaching. And it's not that the expectation needs to be that you're perfect or that you are sinless. You are still living a human experience also. However, there is a certain level of accountability that I think comes with that position that needs to be acknowledged. And I don't think that you're absolved because of your relationship with God, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think that, I don't think that like just because we are a Christian group and that we can pray and that we hope that you repent and that you learn your best, like really it's not up to us. So like I don't know. I struggle with like,
and you're not innocent just because
staying in leadership and not being able to practice what you preach.
Right. Yeah, that was going to be my question. While I don't expect perfection, I do hold you to a higher standard as the leader of the church. So I guess that's where my struggle is a little bit. I expect you to make mistakes. I expect you to fall, all those things. I don't know if I expect you to cheat on your wife and maintain your position as head of the church.
And embezzle from the church. After telling us every Sunday that we tithe for our relationships to God. Like that would be crazy.
As we were talking, the thing that made me, thing that stuck out in my mind with regards to sex and the way that our culture has our religious culture has wrapped its mind around it is that we have definitely put it on a higher pedestal as when it relates to sin. Like, we all know within the church that they're all sins. Like, if you lie, it's still a sin. Yeah. If you cheat, that's a sin. But for some reason, that one holds.
The sex was like,
right. It is way up here. And like, if they lie or if they, he's still a little bit of money, it'll be all right. But if
it was just one private plane.
Right. Like, but if the sex thing, to Debbie's point, we won't talk about it. We won't, the kids, we can't have honest conversations about whether or not it happens. And when it happens, like, it used to be that people were pushed out of the church, although leadership may not be, but which is in itself something. But it's I think that for me, when we're talking about what we want to do or what I would like to see happen, or not even like to see, but expect to see happen if there is problem within leadership, is that everything be treated the same. So if he's cheating, then we need to treat it the same as if he's embezzling. We need to treat it the same as if he's lied. We need to treat it the same as if he's done anything else, because they are all sins. Just because you struggle with gambling, but nobody knows you go and do that, and no one knows that the pastor is gambling until just now, doesn't mean that he still gets to sit on the pulpit every Sunday when, if he was cheating, y'all either want him out or y'all want him to do less.
Do you have a line?
I feel like that's hard in the human experience.
It is.
I feel like I remember like when I was sitting, when someone was like, all sins are weighed the same. It doesn't matter what the sin. And I literally remember sitting there and being like, what? I get murder that. And a lie are equal?
But you have to remember, but this is a cultural thing though too. So we're talking about America, but when I think about like other, I think we had a conversation before about like the way in which people deal with how people lie or different things, right? There are some cultures, if you are caught gambling, that is worse to them than anything else. It just depends on where your humanness decides those lines are.
Totally. What I'm saying is I don't know of a culture where all things are equal.
I'm not saying that, but I am saying that if we are to say in our practice that we believe that to be the case, then we have to work on trying to be that. I'm not saying that it's going to happen right away, but
what
you
does
have
that
to
look like to you?
Yeah,
to me that looks like when we're having our church meetings and we're talking about whatever happened. Pastor cheated, pastor's gambling, pastor lied, pastor whatever. Here are the things that we
murdered somebody.
No, right. I was like, if pastor, I don't know, lied to the IRS on his taxes, I'd be like, that sucks, but whatever. If pastor, I don't know, shot JoJo on the street, I'd be like, that's different.
Okay, but my point is, so if it's murder, to Debbie's point, and we're saying he's no longer at the church, if he cheats, he's gone too. But see, yes,
when he murders, I hope he's in jail.
Right.
I hear
U.S. government, is that a decision for us to make?
Right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I don't know if that necessarily. I hear what you're saying. I just feel, and of course, it's my human thoughts, and I am getting away from that, and also going back to like the Bible and principle, which is what you're saying. I just feel like, I guess it's like there's just a line. And I don't know if
that line changes per person. So that's my point.
But the line also is like, if you create a line like that, where lying is equivalent to murder to us, then how do you also create grace for your leadership to be human?
Well, that's my point. And that's my point. So I think that therein lies my point, right? So if we're saying we see that they have done X, Y, and Z, I don't like that cheating. Cheating is my line. I want to kick them out. But if we're having a church meeting and we're talking about grace and we're talking to this person and we're determining if they murdered somebody, that they did it on purpose and that will do it again. Okay, so there's a line. You're not remorseful and go to jail and don't come back to the church. But if we're talking about somebody where we're saying the line is, this is the line for everybody, and we've talked to this person and they've cheated and they're not remorseful for the cheating, then yes, they still need to go too, right? Like the grace comes in when we're having the conversations, because you shouldn't be automatically kicking somebody out of the church.
Is everything recoverable to you? In terms of church leadership? Yes,
because I think if somebody, when we're talking about the fact of murder, because I think that is what this is the line everybody gasped at. Yeah. So yes, let's use murder. When we're talking about murder, if it was something that this person did not do on purpose or in self-defense or whatever the case may be, we are talking about that in the church and we're determining with this person and with the church, where we're determining with the person and with the church where our level of grace is going to be, because we are saying, do we know this pastor? Has he taken accountability? Is he remorseful? Has he talked it over with God? Whatever it is, murder or adultery or embezzlement. And if we are noticing his humanness and desiring to change and to be better, then sure, stay. But if we're talking about somebody that we know pastors who have said, I've cheated and I'm okay with it and y'all need to be okay with it.
My wife's fine.
Right. Like those, to me, we need to be having a conversation in the church and deciding, no, you need to go.
See, right? I'm not sure. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I'm not sure that those things are decided afterwards. I think that you make those decisions before that thing is done.
I don't know that you can.
Because having like a conversation where this person who is an authoritative, trusted figure in your church have an opportunity to explain themselves and use that position to the congregation isn't level playing ground. That's not just a person expressing remorse or wanting to be forgiven. There's also a power dynamic there.
Well, so I hear that. I would agree with that. But I also know that when I think of that conversation, what it looking like, we don't make the decision that day. Take a couple of weeks. This is something we take to God, right?
Well, also, is something, I have so many questions. Because what do you forfeit? Like, what if the congregations leave? What people are voting? So what if people who voted a way that isn't what it comes to?
It happens a lot. It happens all the time for less than.
Sorry, Nicole's been trying to jump in.
Which is another. Yes, double Dutch. Like double Dutch. I know that maybe not every church has the same covenant, but the ones that I've seen typically all say recognize the
Right, majority to govern.
Right. Okay, Carol. All right. You gotta know.
We should have played that. You know the covenant. You know the next line of the covenant.
I know the first 3 stanzas.
There's that. Then there's also when you weight things, or at least what I think Saya is trying to say is, when you add weight to things, it doesn't necessarily give it justice, because your weight might be different than my weight.
Correct.
So it's kind of like, if we had to liken it to like our own physical bodies, when we lose or gain weight, it may be in different areas than where we lost it or where we had it before.
Facts, because mine will never go back to my butt.
So, Carol, I'm sick of you. So in the same fashion, if you're taking sin and adding weight, what you may weight as sin may not be what Saya weights
so my
as
line
sin.
is not your line.
Right.
Right. So it could be that maybe so it's kind of, this is how I think about it. In a relationship, when you're in a relationship, there's certain things that each of you allow because that's what you can deal with.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be an ex. Sorry. It could be an ex that may say, I couldn't deal with that.
Yeah.
That's not my weight.
Yeah.
So the same thing with sin. The difference is we add weight to something that he hasn't.
Yeah.
Mm.
Come on, preacher.
That's
Here's a collection plate.
That's right. I'm sick.
Solo
You
class.
know what? I think what Nicole is saying is perfect, because I just looked it up, because we have a lot of myths that we've heard growing up that it's just shit people have said. And I just Googled, where did it come from that all sins are equal? That is not even in the Bible. And a lot of people reference Romans 1:18-32. And I just looked up several versions. I looked up the KJV, the NLT, the NIV. It don't say that. But what it does say at the end.
Come on, what it does say. Look, okay, minister, she pull out her,
knowing the judgment of God, that which commit. Hold on, maybe I shouldn't.
Don't paraphrase.
In this version, it sounds different, but in the NLT, it's a little bit more clear. But it says at the end in verse 32, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things, because they just listed a bunch of sins, talking about people doing stuff, are worthy of death. Not only do the same, but have the pleasure in them that do them. Basically, in the other version, it was saying that God is like, if you want to nut up and do the things that were listed above, you should just die. That's hard.
Old Testament God.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's New Testament.
Oh, well.
Yeah, that was Romans.
Romans.
It's in the back.
But you see that there's no weight.
There's no weight
Right.
still,
Yeah.
though, right? And they all get the same treatment.
But they're not equal.
Yeah, but
was my point.
Okay.
Right.
But
There's
also,
nothing that says they equal.
Okay, I can get that, but you still get the same punishment.
well,
So
you
the
do,
dynamic
but it's
is-
also the worst punishment.
It is.
So,
It's
like, for
worst
that
case
to be what we're
scenario.
supposed to go from it,
It's
it's
like
like
when you
not.
commit a crime and you ask your lawyer, well, worst case
But we
scenario
also
is
got to pop
this.
in.
What?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm just saying we also have to pop in that the Bible was translated by white folks. So them saying that God, like, is saying you don't die.
Is it offensive?
You know?
It's translated by.
Stop it.
Hey, can we talk about it? Who's King James?
I mean, you're not wrong.
Okay, anyway.
He was a Caucasian man.
From the
Come
mouth.
out of Caucasian.
8.5 by 11.
No, I'm just kidding. No, that is offensive. I'll shut up.
It's fine.
I said
Welcome
all
to the
of
group
that
chat where we're
I said all
offensive.
that to say, I think that I will even admit with my own self, I said earlier that I felt some type of way about Jesus Light. We all have this type of judgment and we all have to make our decisions. Tiff, you asked whether or not some people are going to stay or go. From my standpoint, there are going to be some people that are going to help this pastor for whatever he's done, lift himself back up and help him get to a better relationship with God. If you don't feel like you're that person, you might have to go.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
100%.
So, like, I'm not saying that all of these things for sure need to be done the same way. Literally saying that we have to take that into consideration when we're considering this, because I know it's so easy to judge, but I'm thinking about how I want to be treated and where I want to be at. And if I was in any type of leadership for whatever reason, and then I made decisions out of flesh, out of self, and then got caught. Y'all were like, no, you know you wrong for doing whatever you need to do. I don't want y'all to be like, but you could go back up there and do whatever you was doing before. Yeah. I want y'all to hold me accountable. I want y'all to tell me that I need to do things differently. I may not want it in the moment, right. But I, looking at where I'm at right now, I want y'all to be able to do that. And I need people to help me. It's a personal relationship, but you still need a team of people around you to help you get to the spaces in which God is trying to get you to. Yeah. And so it may not be everybody. The people who decide that they want to stick around and help that pastor get back to wherever he needs to get to, they're the right people for that job. Right. But the ones who leave are the ones who are like, I think my role is better fit somewhere else.
Yeah. I also want to clarify too that I'm not like trying to say like it's time to bounce like right. that. When I think of what if scenarios, my mind always goes straight to the loopholes. Like, what are we missing in this, in the way that we're framing this conversation? That's true. And I just, I think that there's an element where if whatever bar we create, I wasn't an advocate of this bar, someone commits something that is what we deem as lower than this bar. And they're non-repentive, they're not sorry, they're still in a position of leadership while they're being like hypocritical, that creates a problematic environment potentially for a lot of people for varying reasons. Right. I'm not saying that people want to leave because they don't want to help and they're like ostracizing the pastor. I'm saying that it can be really hard for people to perceive like, how am I supposed to learn from you when you can't do even what you speak about? Right. And having that it's not peer to peer, right? It's not, right. I'm learning from you. So like in that dynamic, it can create a very precarious environment.
Yeah. Cause I immediately thought of John Gray. When this whole conversation happened, because he, if you're not familiar, he cheated on his wife and is also a leader of a church. And they ended up coming back together, united front. He apologized to his wife. He apologized to the congregation. I believe he's still the pastor of that church. So he remained in as the lead pastor of that church and everything is fine, right? So if that's okay for you, you stay, you're like, okay, he made a mistake. He's a human. Things happen. Fine. But then he came out that it happened again. Right. That
Jesus, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Like a couple months later, he cheated on his wife again. And I'm just thinking like, I'm
confused.
Yeah. Like, I just don't know if I can be. And then he also was a mentor to a couple who is now divorced, actually, on a TV show.
Well,
him and his wife mentored them when they were dealing with marital issues and they're no longer together. And I'm not saying it's a heck of a coincidence. But I was just thinking like, I don't know how I can, if I'm having trouble in my relationship or my marriage or what have you, if I'm going to feel comfortable with my husband seeking advice from you. You know what I mean? Like
because what's the advice?
Right, exactly. Right. Especially if you're clearly not remorseful. So I think that's where I don't put leadership on pedestals, but I am expecting you to practice what you preach. And then also if you make a mistake to be legitimately remorseful and repentant. Cause like I couldn't go to his church anymore. Like maybe after the first time after they apologized, I might have been side-eyeing you for a couple of Sundays. I'm hoping that you took a little sabbatical and, checked in with your wife
and Jesus
had a little conversations. But after the second time, I would have been like taking my time.
Yeah, like I John Gray. Okay. I was just saying really quick. I think they were talking to T.I. and Tiny on the Family Hustle one.
Well, he was talking to LaToya Luckett and her ex-husband. I can't remember his
Hill
name.
Senior.
It's her husband.
Show. I thought her
same. I think. Yeah, Family. Yeah,
it was on. It may have been like the same.
I think you're right. Yeah,
it was on Family Hustle, which was inclusive of all of them. But he was working with LaToya and her husband.
I believe he said something to Tiny, like about making sure you stand by his side and he's going to have weak moments and blah, blah, blah.
He was probably trying to holler at Tiny.
I could have fought him because I'm like, not you! Telling somebody like the message of basically you need to stand by your man no matter what because he's gonna, fall short. And he said it in a way where I could have jumped through the TV. I'm like, not you multiple times telling somebody what the woman needs to do instead of holding the man accountable. But that goes back to
what they didn't show.
Back to the
Was
page.
after that, he said, if he gonna have his girlfriend, I can be your man too.
Goodbye, Nicole.
She's paraphrasing. This never happened.
Right. I was like, oh, wow.
I don't remember that name. All right. Well, as you may or may not have noticed, Debbie left.
Get this conversation out.
You couldn't have just said.
She has 2 kids that have been nagging her to go somewhere, so she had to go. So thank you, Debbie, for joining us.
Thanks, Deb.
If you ever tune back in. Thanks, girl.
All right. So I am interested to know from the only minister / leader from a church perspective in the room right now, how you would feel, or how would you like to be treated?
Yeah, you out here,
doing whatever,
getting your cheeks clapped, and then the whole church found out.
I'm waiting for her to respond. First, they would never find
pull up I'm sick.
Someone came down to the church meeting and was like, I was with her last night.
And it was
First
great.
of all.
And it was great.
Secondly, yes.
Not the man coming to the church first.
That's why he's coming to the church.
I just want y'all to know before anybody outs me.
Because it was great.
He was like, I have converted him. I now know Jesus, my personal savior.
Not the man being. I was impregnated by Minister Beasley.
I think just with the Holy Spirit.
It's that sunshine. It's that sunshine.
Yes, sunshine.
Oh, sorry. I hope
You turned it.
Can you cut that?
No, that stays in. All that
I'm
stays
showing it to
in.
Pastor tomorrow.
We're going to forward him this way.
So tomorrow, when I'm no longer head of the youth, how will I feel?
Not just being this question being the reason Teisha gets removed from leadership.
I will feel like y'all can kick me out of your little earthly organization.
Not your
Earthly organization, but you may have to sit next to me in heaven. So
come on, and that's on
yourself.
Jesus Christ.
Yes.
That's on Jesus. That's on JC.
Yes. But yeah, honestly, you can kick me out of your earthly organization. I'm going to heaven.
All right, you better claim that. That's right.
She's like, I claim it because no one else is.
Because everybody else has said, not really sure what's going to happen with you. Off with you. But have you thought about that? Being in leadership? No, honestly, because I think...
Like, I'm not going to do that because...
No, I just often think in order to accept the call, you got to think about all the things that come with it, I'm assuming, right? And that being like, before you accept the call, you can do something and ain't nobody gonna really say nothing about what you do.
Right.
But once you accept the call, it's
like you're put under a magnifying glass.
Exactly. So that's why I'm asking. This is why I'm asking the question.
You definitely are, but not even with, say, something as drastic as, slept around or murdered some. If you say the wrong thing, you're, the pressure that's on you. Did you hurt such and such feelings because you didn't do this?
Right.
So there is that definite pressure, and you hope that people extend grace. Like, I'm human. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings.
I'm not sorry. That's why I'm not in
why you're not.
But I know that about myself.
Not called.
I'm not called.
Jesus called Nicole was like,
like she needs to sit on the pew
on the ground floor of the congregation
for a while.
Not even. You still have a story, and you still have the duty to proclaim the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ in your own way.
I do.
So do you think that your thoughts on that changed once you became a minister, or did you feel the same way before?
I felt it to a certain extent, but I feel it even greater now.
Yeah, because you be capping for people now.
Well,
capping.
Anytime there be a controversy in the church, Teisha be like, no, but we need to extend grace because you don't know. And I'm like, oh, we can be mad? All right.
Right.
Yeah, but there's definitely that pressure because people will take one incident and leave the church forever. And you never want that to be on you that you caused someone to leave church forever when that was not your intent or your heart or anything like that. Oof. So there's definitely a pressure to being a minister. You always want to make sure you're saying the right thing. Did I say did I know the scripture? So yeah, it's levels of pressure that are definitely there.
So, okay, so I'm going to ask this question.
Oh, Lord.
Because I know
Where's Debbie?
Come back. So you also as a female minister, do you feel like there's also pressure, not in just being a female, but in the embodiment of women are labeled as temptresses and seduce, like that's what some people read out of the Bible. Like that's their takeaway when they see certain. Why? Because they could sometimes come off that way and that's not their intention.
Is that what it is?
But do you sometimes feel like there's also a pressure in just like in the simple things like what you wear?
Oh, huge. And I don't know if it's self-imposed, but definitely it's like, oh, is this too short? Is this too low? Is this too tight? I'm sure there's not a male minister that gets up and says, oh, I better not wear this shirt. It's too tight, Right.
Some of them should, though.
Definitely. But I'm sure, it's not, it doesn't hinder.
Yeah, correct.
It doesn't hinder their wardrobe. But yeah, there's definitely that. And should I not wear these kind of heels or should I not?
It's not just shoes.
Even color. Should I not wear this color on the pulpit because they'll view me this way or that way?
Yeah. You should wear red every time you preach.
Well,
bright red.
I love a good red lip. And I'm like, oh, should I wear that when I preach? Is that appropriate? But
do you think that you're like heeding your call to ministry has in any way, like, I don't want to put this on you, so I don't know how to correctly phrase it, but I'm asking like that would incur anxiety in me. So I guess like what I'm asking is like, do you find like, how do you deal with all of that? And like,
and push through?
Yeah.
I push through because I know that it's all of these things. It's not about me. It's for God. It's for His glory. So I got to push past all of that, the foolishness of I shouldn't call it foolishness, but all of those issues and anxieties and whatnot, and know that it is not about me. It is what have you been called to do? Do that. Mm-hmm. Do that.
Yeah.
So is there any time you're like, I might have this little Jezebel skirt. I'm weird anyway.
That doesn't. They're going to get this started. Hey. Sometimes it's like, better put a long jacket on. So there are moments where you want to, and you're like, nah, I just can't. I just can't do it. So,
because you would I would imagine that would distract you while you're preaching,
so
right?
much so. Like, yes, there are times when it's like, I forgot my lap scarf, and all you can think of is, okay, my thighs are out. Oh, don't cross this way, don't cross that way, don't shift too much. Legs. Don't relax. Yes, exactly. Because you are sitting up there, and you are definitely under a microscope.
I feel like with all of that, do you ever have the same qualms around like wearing pants and like wearing like, is it all about like trying to be like modest, or do you have like those old like women in the church tropes that you contend with also?
I used to until an old aunt of mine wore pants. So I was like, well, if she can wear pants, I definitely can. So I think that, I'm over that.
Thank God for her.
Okay. Yes, thank God. Because before we never would. And I still would tease Mom because she didn't think that like the deaconess should wear pants, especially during communion. So whatever she would say, like it could be the sky is blue. I was like, oh, as long as you don't wear pants on communion. I would just tease her about that. And then finally she started wearing pants on communion. So I think we progressed in our thinking.
Well, look at God.
I know.
That's so interesting because I never even perceived Shiloh I feel like that was something that I worried about when I went to like visit my grandmother in church, but like never at Shiloh.
That was absolutely a thing. I remember my great grandmother. It was like, what do you mean you're not wearing the pantyhose conversation?
I did have that a lot.
The hat, like the hat used to be a requirement for a woman to come into the sanctuary. You had to have a hat.
What's
on
the
your
age
head.
for that? Like when
80.
I won't in it.
Mm-hmm, yeah, me either.
I remember too, or like when we were ushering, like how the skirt had to be like below our knee, but it also couldn't be long for a long time.
Right.
And
Well, those are the rules set by the ushers union or whatever it was called.
Show a little bit of leg, but not too much.
Yeah. But if we wore, we had to wear stockings. Like, there was a lot of rules around that too.
I thank God for being delivered from that stocking thing.
Don't we all?
Man,
our legs
summers in DC.
It took someone higher up in leadership to not have them on for me to say, "Oh, okay."
Yes. So y'all never had anybody who, because I've had people come up to me who were not family and be like, "You gonna need to put some
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
And I was gonna be like, I told my mom no, so
what you gonna about to tell you? Who are you? Matter of fact,
it's funny. The person that used to tell me back in the day that women shouldn't wear pants, I was like, "Are you going to tell my Aunt Nellie that?" Because
it was probably Mom May, wasn't it?
It might have been. It might have been your grandma. My grandma was your grandma.
That sounds. But for her to be so anti-pantyhose, I wonder why she felt that way about pants.
I don't know. Because they thought pants were mannish. That's what they would say. You're being too mannish.
Okay.
That's how they would put it.
If only she lived a little longer.
They all would fall out about now. But
they would hate summers at our church.
Oh, gosh.
Us wearing jeans and t-shirts and sleeveless.
They would have us living comfortable.
Imagine
growing our relationship with God.
But they would also have a problem with pastor and jeans and the sweatshirt and all that stuff.
Now that I think about it, sometimes I do that. It took me a really long time. Like when Harry first started coming to church, I'd be like, "So you gonna wear those pants?" Okay. Those are cargo pants. You're aware, right? And now I'm just like, "Are you coming to church this Sunday?"
Right.
And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "All right, I'll see you there."
Exactly.
I don't care.
Right.
But it's interesting that those things carry over into our
it's beaten into you by strangers.
It is.
But no one ever said anything to me about not wearing pantyhose.
Well, Nicole, you have a RBF to like.
You're right.
That's true, because I don't remember anybody talking to me.
But y'all are such a younger generation.
But Carol remembers?
No, I remember some people coming up to me and be like, "You should wear like pantyhose," or like, "Why don't you have pantyhose on?" Like I remember having that conversation. I don't know who said it. I'm surprised. I don't know. Maybe people feel more comfortable braiding me when I was younger.
Maybe.
I feel like it was really just because I was gone for like, she's just gonna go play soccer later. That's why she ain't got hose on. So that's probably why people left me alone.
Maybe.
She only here for the message. She's gonna be gone.
Go
soccer girl.
Right. She's only here on first Sundays anyway.
First of all, that was not true.
Just kidding.
I'm gonna play my whole life.
Where's that little button?
So have we exhausted the
Yes.
Yep, that's it.
My horse has been beaten.
Okay. Moving
On to Tiff.
Okay, it's my turn.
Yes.
I forgot what we called the segment.
Tangent.
Okay. I think it's more like questions.
Called, but one thing we're gonna do is tangent.
Did I participate in this part too?
She missed it.
Oh yeah.
I'll do it one more time.
No, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't supposed to be silent because this is y'all's portion of it.
No, I just wanted to make
you
sure.
should talk through the rest of the episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do it again.
Wait, no, don't do it because I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
Nothing.
For the tangent?
Nothing.
Oh.
Okay.
How did I miss it?
I don't know.
I didn't say anything.
Oh no, because I did like this. One thing we're gonna do is tangent.
Yes, and then you missed that. That cue is the part you missed.
So this is the part where I read the question?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, it's happening.
You don't say this is Tiff's tangents or anything like that?
I feel like that's what we call. I feel like it was like something about questions. I don't know. We have to go back and listen.
Yeah.
We definitely said tangent.
We adding new stuff. We don't even remember what we did last time. It's okay.
All right. Well, Tiff's tangent of the week, y'all.
Uh-oh.
I have a. Okay.
Uh-oh.
I might have two. I feel like I'm excited about this one.
Okay.
What's the best insult you've ever heard?
Ooh. That's
I can't say that.
Oh.
Yes, you can. This is a safe space.
I'm not.
someone said it to us or you heard it.
Either you could be an innocent bystander. It could have been to you. Maybe you said it.
Dang.
Hmm.
You should host this. We could think about it all week.
Oh, sorry.
Let's come back to that.
One was when someone walks up and they're like, "Oh, you look smart," because they have a big head.
That's rude.
That's so rude because it's like, what do you say? Because you can't be like, what? Because you
heard it.
It's
right.
You heard it.
It's not an insult on the outset.
Oh my god.
And you know why.
What's the best or the worst insult you heard? What was the question?
I said best. It could, I mean, depending on how you grade it, could be worst.
Oh.
Most memorable.
Yeah.
Wow. The only ones that, I don't know if they were meant, I think they were supposed to be a compliment, but they're always just like, oh wow, like what are you mixed with? You're only black? And I'd be like,
oh gosh. That's rude.
I'm just like, yeah.
That is so rude.
This is awkward.
Awkward.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I have
Me
one.
either. We should definitely move on.
I'm looking through my phone because I usually like
Keep insults in there?
work screen. But I screenshot so I can share.
She screenshot biblical
insults?
scriptures and insults.
And insults.
It's a spectrum, everyone.
Balance.
Spectrum.
Balance, everyone. Okay,
That's
what's the next
funny.
thing? What's the next tangent?
Okay. Next one is what's not Black culture but feels like it.
So can you give an example?
Like for some, I would say Golden Girls.
Mm.
Like a lot of Black people like resonate with it, but it's not
That's
for us
good.
or by
Oh
us.
yeah,
Yeah,
have you
that's a
seen
good
that?
one.
Was it you that sent us the picture of like Judge Katinji?
Oh, with
and it has like all the dead people
Yes,
and Betty White. was in
Betty
it?
White, right. Like, how'd she make it?
Because she's one of ours.
Dang, how do you say her name correctly? I think I just butchered it.
Catan.
Catan.
Oh, I could. Okay, let me not.
Oh, no. Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
Let's Google it.
Yeah.
GTS.
Should we be even calling her by her first name anymore?
Brown.
Justice Brown.
Justice
Brown.
Brown.
There we
You
go.
know, the first time we
That's how you pronounce it.
said,
But is she
the first
going by
time we said her,
Justice
I said her
Brown
name,
Jackson, or is she
Brown
just
Jackson.
Justice Brown? I'm
Oh, I
curious.
don't know.
I don't know.
I called her Brown
Oh,
Jackson
goodness
last
gracious, I don't
episode.
know. Okay.
But I'm assuming that that's
Wow, this is
I think chicken wings and fried rice is not
Like the combination together?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
But only
Now
the
you got
carry
me
outs.
wanting China King.
I know.
Not y'all hungry.
That sounds so good.
I know.
Salivating over here.
For mambo sauce.
Mhm. I'm trying to think of what
Yeah.
is.
All right, these were. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
These are hard.
My
Yeah,
bad.
it
Sorry.
is.
Should I look up another one?
No.
Okay.
No, but I really like that one. Like, what have we claimed as ours that might not be?
Hennessy.
Oh,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's a really good one.
Hennessy, Cristal, Moet.
Mhm.
And I was
down
going
the
over
list.
like,
Every single drink. Casamigos. Casamigos. That's what I'm going to say.
That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Because that is a
Chokehold.
on the nigga community.
First of all,
Hookah.
hold
And
on, wait.
hookah is another
Oh.
one.
And Chargers.
hmm?
Chargers. Dodge Chargers.
Oh.
We don't own that, but
Yeah.
it owns us.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'll even say Ralph Lauren.
I was going to say Laurent.
My brother owns nothing but Polo. Like
Oh,
we have gotten to the
yes.
point where we can't even buy him anything anymore because I think he has everything that they've ever made.
I'm
Like
having the whole.
Which brother?
Alardis.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
he wants Polo every single birthday, Father's Day, Christmas, like whatever. So it's like I think we've circled back to like doubling up on stuff. 'cause
What
he
has holes in
everything.
it?
Right.
Yeah, like buy it again, and he's at that point.
Good.
Do you have anything?
No. I'm not good on the spot. You got
Oh
Tell
man,
me
sorry guys.
before.
Should I start
Yeah.
telling you beforehand?
Yes, we gotta
Yeah.
think about it.
Oh,
I'm not.
they're
yeah.
all not like this.
This
Some
is
of
why
them
I'm
are
not
just,
good.
like,
I'm
very
not good with
random.
that, the singing game either.
Well, I can't tell you the singing game
What's
ahead
the-
of time.
I know,
That's
but I'm
cheating.
just gonna tell
Maybe
you,
know.
I'm not gonna get
Okay,
this.
now I'm not gonna remember his name. The guy that sings the song that nobody believes is sung by a white man, but it's
Bobby Caldwell.
Yes,
Bobby Caldwell.
Yes. Yeah.
That would be
That's a
one.
really
And
good
Tina
one.
Marie.
Yes.
I was gonna say
And
Tina Marie, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And Hall and Oates. That's Sarah's smile.
Yes.
I saw
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
meme the other day that was like, can you imagine just being alive during the 80s? Like, just think about
Man.
snorting a line and then going to dance to Square Biz.
It is normal.
Right.
It should have said in your 20s or early 20s in the 80s. Because
Right.
I was alive, but I wasn't doing that.
What a time to be alive.
What a time.
What a
Oh,
time.
Lord.
Oh,
Okay.
that was good. That was a good one.
That was a good one. Both of those are good. I wish I had better ones.
Sorry.
This is what it is.
Write
All
a
right,
thesis
so
and
I
come
can
back
start
next
prefacing
week.
y'all.
we're on to our aftershade. For our avid listener, Teisha, this is the portion of the podcast where we leave our audience with, something uplifting or something that we think that could help them get through the week. Sometimes it ends up being a little shady because that's who we are. But.
Yeah. And I'm going to preface this with, it needs to be short because if this is going to be anything like your prayers.
First of all,
we
got two of them.
I think both of y'all need to, keep it simple.
I'm gonna set the timer right now.
You need
just
to.
Like at the funeral, you get 2 minutes.
Not even.
Trying to pray for these people's souls.
Okay. And they like, wrap it up. My soul is good. Okay?
Pray for my soul quickly, please.
Ooh, who wants to go first?
Maybe you should go first.
Okay, yeah, I can go ahead. My aftershade for the week is we talked a lot today about having your own personal relationship with God, and I'm just gonna reiterate that and also uplift our listeners. If you are feeling like you don't know how to start a personal relationship, if you're feeling like you're not sure of where to go or what to do, if you saw one of these videos that didn't give you any direction on where to go or what to do, reach out to anyone that you think has a personal relationship. And I'm saying that because I'm almost positive that those people are going to at least give you some words of encouragement and to help try to maybe send a video that will lead you to some places of where you can go, or they can maybe help you find a church, if not a church home, at least start you off with a couple of videos from T.D. Jakes and I don't know, maybe Brian Houston if you still like Hillsong. Whoever. He has the words, just maybe execution is not that great. All right, so either way, what I'm saying and I'm affirming for my listeners this week is that you're not alone, that you are not the only one struggling right now. There are people out there who can support you in any way, shape, or form so you can get what you need out and figure out how to develop your personal relationship. I'll plug Debbie. If you're not one who really is looking to maybe have the group dynamic yet, but maybe you're looking for a little therapy and a way to start your own launching pad, but just know you're not alone. I think we've all had moments in our own lives where things were hard. We weren't sure where to turn. And even in the midst of not being sure, set up a prayer to, even if it's, Lord, I don't know what I'm going to do. Or Lord, can you help me? And that being that, but no, he's there, he's listening, and that there's somebody out there, even if it's one of us, who could be able to help you find what you need so that you might build your own personal relationship.
Yeah, I would say to find your place, like in your tribe, and don't be discouraged if it doesn't happen right away. I kind of akin finding a good church home to like finding therapy. There's a good chance that your first or second person or place might not be the place for you, but don't let it discourage you from finding what you need. We talked a lot about, like, for some people, that mega church experience is really what works for them. For us, we found that a smaller church is what really resonates with us. So, and we live in an area where both are in abundance. Mm-hmm. So hopefully where you are, you can find out what works for you. I think we also kind of, I don't know, this might be dangerous, but like sometimes you do have to separate the man from the message to really kind of dig into what you need. We talked a lot about not putting people on a pedestal. Our ministers and preachers and people in power, they are just that. They are people. So they're going through, they might be on a different part of their journey, but we're all on this journey and just trying to do the best that we can. So while there's a lot wrong with churches, there's also a lot good with them too. And I would say our church is not perfect, but we do a lot of good and a lot of things right. So I would say find your place and find your tribe that works for you. Okay.
I kind of wanted to piggyback on saying something similar, that I want to affirm that you'll find your community. If you've tried once or experienced something that kind of put you off of it or made you feel like you didn't belong or made you feel like it doesn't resonate with you, that doesn't mean you have to stop trying. That is one experience, and that doesn't mean it's the whole experience. So if there's still something that is being called to you to still find your relationship with God, that is being called to you to still find your church community, don't stop looking. This might just be part of your journey, and it may be a very uncomfortable part. It may be a part that you don't love, but that doesn't mean that there isn't another side to the journey. So keep going through it. And like Debbie said, I really liked what she said about a show me prayer. Like if you are really feeling like you don't know where to go, ask God to show you and to point out to you where it is that you belong.
My turn next?
Yes, Teisha.
Time.
Okay. Whatever. I think what I would, my Afro shade, that would the sound Afro shade. Oh, okay.
Like
Afro shade. Oh, okay. I got it.
Mm-hmm. How many times have you heard? Oh.
Whatever. Anyway, I think from watching the videos that we talked about earlier, the bottom line is we are all going through issues and things. And I think Jesus said it best in Luke chapter 10, verse 41, when he's telling Martha, his two sisters, Martha and Mary is sitting, having a relationship with Jesus, and Martha is worried about all of the issues that are going on around. And he says, Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. So I think if we focus on that personal, individual relationship and bring our worries and concerns and all of that to Jesus, he will help us through. He will guide us through. He is an ever-present help in the time of trouble, and he is there for us, and he gets us. You know, he got that Martha was concerned about that, but he had to redirect her. Mm-hmm. She came to him and said, Lord, look at all that's going on. And he redirected her. The most important thing is your relationship with me. And so work on that. Work on developing that.
Amen.
Amen. That was good. I think what I will affirm our listeners is that you are capable of creating, building, establishing, whatever you want to say, the relationship that you have with God, however that looks for you and whatever that looks like. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's relationship is the same. Your relationship goals could look like, the next person or not anything like it at all. It's what works best for you in God. And as long as you are following in line with what God has for you and what y'all have agreed upon, then that's all that matters. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. That's it.
And that's on Jesus Christ.
And that's on JC.
Hallelujah.
Well, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Teisha, for coming.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I learned so much.
Yeah, I will say that we went over 2 hours because of you, but we didn't.
No, it's not my
fault. And thanks, Debbie, again for joining us.
Yes,
that was
thanks,
great.
Debs.
This was a good one.
Appreciate y'all.
See you guys next time.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye.